Chapter 939. Outside Liangzhou City, by the Black River. After Jiang Chun was teleported out, he returned here again. The fisherman seemed to have done it on purpose. At this moment, Jiang Chun was confused. He had no idea what the fisherman meant. He held the jade pendant in his hand and frowned. He pondered for a long time, but could not figure it out. "Forget it, I won't think about it anymore," Jiang Chun whispered. Just as he was about to put away the jade pendant, a gust of cold wind blew over and landed beside him in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Jiang Chun's expression changed drastically and he kept retreating. However, no matter how fast he was, the figure remained in front of him and the distance between them could not be pulled apart at all. "Big sister, what are you trying to do?" Jiang Chun's face darkened. He met that white-robed woman again. "Since the fisherman doesn't care about you, then come back with me," the white-robed woman said softly. She stretched out her slender hand, and a cold wind blew. Jiang Chun wanted to resist, but the power in his body was instantly suppressed. Even his soul and divine soul were almost destroyed. This was an extremely terrifying woman. Her cultivation was so high that it completely exceeded Jiang Chun's imagination. In just a moment, Jiang Chun was suppressed and was held in the white-robed woman's hand like a little chick. "What are you trying to do?" Jiang Chun said in a low voice. "Sacrifice you," the white-robed woman said softly. "Sacrifice you, and the heavens will come back to life." "What? Sacrifice me?" Jiang Chun was shocked. Sacrifice? Didn't she want to kill him? However, Jiang Chun did not have the ability to resist at all, facing a creature of this level. Even if Jiang Chun used a forbidden technique, he might not be able to hurt her at all. "You have gathered all karma on yourself. Living is a sin," the white-clothed woman said. She pulled Jiang Chun and sank into the Blackwater River. Jiang Chun gave up. Even the ancient divine monarchs of the Nine Heavens Imperial Court might not be able to save him. Even if they joined forces with Katsura Matsuda, Hong Yi, and the others, they might not be a match for this woman in white. However, Jiang Chun was still unwilling to give up. It hadn't been easy for him to become a god, and now that a golden age was about to descend, how could he be willing to die? What's more, he died without knowing why. "You should at least tell me why me?" Jiang Chun asked. "There are so many creatures in the world. Can't you sacrifice others? What's so good about me? I'm just a lesser true god. No one else can," the white-robed woman said as she sank into the depths of the Black River. After that, she brought Jiang Chun into a cave at the bottom of the river. There was no drinking water in the cave. It was very clean and not damp. Green lamps flickered in the cave, and ancient and obscure runes were carved on the walls. There was also an aura of vicissitudes of time floating in the cave. Clearly, this cave had existed for a long time. After Jiang Chun was brought here, he was directly thrown onto an altar. This altar was also the only thing in the cave. Jiang Chun was powerless as he laid on the altar. Out of the corner of his eye, he could clearly see the things around him: a shattered skull, a black finger, and several ribs covered in runes of the Great Tao. These were not the same living being. Very clearly, there was more than one living being that died on this altar. Furthermore, these living beings were all extremely powerful. The skulls, fingers, and even ribs left behind after death still contained a power fluctuation that made one's heart palpitate. At least a peak divine monarch, right? Jiang Chun's heart was like dead ashes. Even a peak divine monarch had to die here. A lesser true god like him had no way to survive. "Hey, let me die with understanding," Jiang Chun glared. At this point, there was nothing much to ask for. Heaven has been destroyed and died. Sacrificing you will allow heaven to live. The white-clothed woman said, "If heaven lives, everything will be reborn. The great Tao will revive, and all living beings will be sublimated. Why do we need to fear the greater worlds outside the southern wall? This heaven is dead?" Jiang Chun was shocked. The so-called heaven did not exist in the hearts of all living beings. It was a kind of meaning a living being's understanding of this world. Many people believe that there was no heaven in this world, and that there was only a wisp of the great Tao's will. But now, after hearing the white-clothed woman's words, Jiang Chun felt that everything he knew was overturned. This world has experienced many eras. The three closest eras to now are yellow extinction, blue extinction, and blue extinction. The white-clothed woman explained as she formed hand seals, as if she was really going to kill Jiang Chun. Big things happened in these three eras. The white-clothed woman explained, the yellow extinction era was when Huang Tian was killed. The blue extinction era was when heaven was killed. The blue extinction era was also when heaven fell. The wills of the three heavens perished, the six worlds protected themselves, and the southern wall appeared. If the wills of the three heavens can be revived, even if the southern wall is no longer there, the six worlds need not fear the greater worlds. Jiang Chun was stunned. There were not only heaven in this world, but there were also three heavens? Then, how did these three heavens die? Since they were heaven, they were indestructible. Who could kill heaven? What does this have to do with me? Jiang Chun asked. Of course it has to do with you. The white-clothed woman said, back then, when you killed the wills of the three heavens, you made a great contribution. Your body and even your soul have the karma of the three heavens. After sacrificing you, the karma will end, and the wills of the three heavens will be revived. Jiang Chen's heart palpitated when he heard this. He could not believe what he had done in his previous lives. Had he killed the heavens? If he had killed the heavens, then what level had his cultivation reached? Had he surpassed the god emperor level? Or could it be that he was an utmost exalt? In the end, it's because the six worlds can't defeat the greater worlds that they want to sacrifice me? Am I right? Jiang Chen asked. You can understand it that way. The white-clothed woman nodded. Then, why did you kill the three heavens? Jiang Chen asked again. Because the heavens are like a lid. Not only does it protect all living beings, but it also seals their paths. The white-clothed woman explained, the path is sealed. If someone reaches the end of the path, they can only lift the lid if they want to go up. Back then, the few of you did the same. In order to transcend the shackles, you used the power of three lives to kill the three heavens. The few of us? Jiang Chun was stunned. It seemed like he was not the only one who killed the three heavens. Then, who were the others? Moreover, if the others were also involved, why did they have to sacrifice him? Couldn't they sacrifice the others? Suddenly, Jiang Chun came to his senses and said bitterly, are the others especially strong? You don't have the strength to sacrifice them, so you can only sacrifice me? Yes. The white-clothed woman was very direct. There was a trace of contempt and mockery in her eyes. She said, I never thought that the creature that was so strong that even the greater worlds feared would be so weak now. Chapter 940. Jiang Chun knew that this was the case. If he wasn't weak, this woman wouldn't have chased after him so relentlessly. His heart was filled with bitterness and helplessness. Jiang Chun wanted to cry, but no tears came out. However, he also accepted this fact. It was precisely because he was weak that he was bullied and even sacrificed. This was the law of this world. The strong preyed on the weak. However, Jiang Chun couldn't understand why they had to kill the three heavens back then. If it's as you said, isn't it good to kill the three heavens to seek a way out for all living beings? Is that wrong? Jiang Chun asked. That's right. The white-clothed woman said softly. It's just a pity that the six realms are like this. Without the three heavens' protection, the six realms will be destroyed. It's because we aren't strong enough that we need the three heavens' protection. But with the three heavens' protection, the living beings of the six realms will have no future. Jiang Chun said solemnly, if we are strong enough, why rely on the three heavens? You're right. The white-clothed woman didn't refute. It's just a pity that the six realms are incomplete and can't give birth to supremes. Therefore, without the three heavens' protection, the six realms will be destroyed. As she spoke, the runes on the altar rose. The chains were like black claws that trapped Jiang Chun. Wisps of blood-red light flowed out of the altar, slowly eroding Jiang Chun's body and soul. Sigh. I can't escape in the end. Jiang Chun sighed and closed his eyes. This was the first time he felt despair. Back then, even when facing the siege of 36 sovereigns, Jiangchen didn't give up and fought until the last one. But now, how could a lesser true god fight this terrifying woman? He didn't even have the strength to resist. Just as Jiangchen gave up, the altar suddenly shook a few times. Then, the runes disappeared, the blood-red light dissipated, and cracks appeared on the altar. Jiangchen was dumbfounded. The white-clothed woman was also dumbfounded. Both of them saw that there was an empty space under the cracks of the altar. That should be the core of the altar. Where's the array core? The white-robed woman was dumbfounded. The altar had never been broken, so how could the array core be gone? Jiangchen blinked and asked, "You want to kill me? Or do you want to sacrifice me? Now that the altar can't operate, you won't kill me, right?" As soon as he said that, the white-clothed woman's face immediately turned ugly. Just as Jiangchen had said, she didn't want to kill Jiangchen. She wanted to sacrifice him. If they wanted to kill Jiangchen, they wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. The eye of the array has been stolen. The white-robed woman stared at the crack on the altar. Light flickered in her eyes as an image appeared in front of her. She was tracing the past. A few breaths later, the image became clear. In the image, a Taoist priest with a wretched face quietly entered the place. After looking around to make sure there was no one around, he skillfully stole the array core of the altar. "It's him!" The white-robed woman's eyes were filled with surprise. Jiangchen was even more dumbfounded. The Taoist priest in the image was Mu De. This guy, I haven't seen him for a long time. Now that he's in the ninth heaven, he's still doing such a thing. At the last moment before the image disappeared, Jiangchen saw an azure dragon carrying Mu De away, followed by a phoenix and a vermilion bird. What the F***CK? These four bastards are together? Jiangchen's expression was strange. These four bastards, each more cunning than the other. They don't do good things, but they do bad things. In the past, Jiangchen had been on guard against them. He rarely allowed them to be together, fearing that they would be led astray. Unexpectedly, he still couldn't stop them. At this moment, Jiangchen was very pleased. "Master of the Four Abyss, why didn't you stay in your lousy underworld? Why did you come to the ninth heaven?" The white-robed woman said in a low voice. Her peerless face was full of frost. Buzz! Suddenly, a loud sound came from the altar. Then, a light and runes appeared on the altar. A teleportation portal suddenly appeared. Before the white-robed woman could react, Jiangchen was teleported out of the portal. In the blink of an eye, he was gone. "Damn it!" the white-robed woman roared. Her face was ferocious, and she had lost her usual ethereal temperament. She looked back again and heard Mu De's sneaky voice in the image. "This altar is used to harm people. Set up a teleportation portal and save the person who is going to be sacrificed." Then, Long Dade said in a bad mood, "God knows who your teleportation portal will save. Even if you save someone, they won't know it's you who saved them. It's a thankless task." Looking at the image and hearing the voice, the white-robed woman was completely enraged. She roared and waved her hand. The space around her cracked inch by inch. Even the runes were destroyed. She was so powerful that she could suppress the Tao with just a wave of her hand. However, she did not expect her plan to be ruined by Mu De. Was it a coincidence? Was it the will of the heavens? "You can't run away, including you, Master of the Four Abyss," the white-robed woman said coldly. After calming down, she left with the ice coffin. At the same time, in Liangzhou City, Jiangchen was teleported here. After the woman was gone, he quickly unlocked the shackles on his body. Then he did not dare to stay any longer. He immediately escaped into the void. Jiangchen was panicking. If he met the woman again, he would not be so lucky to escape. This time it was all thanks to Mu De. If it weren't for the fact that Mu De had done all sorts of bad things, he would have really died this time. After a few seconds, outside the Tiger Head Mountain in the north of Liangzhou City, Jiangchen arrived and looked at the ashes of the Tiger Head Mountain in front of him. His eyes flashed with anticipation and fear. The murderous aura on the Tiger Head Mountain was extremely dense. Even if an overgod came, It was very likely that he would become murderous under the influence of the murderous aura. Jiang Qin was also worried that if he came into contact with the murderous aura, it was very likely that the murderous aura in his body would awaken. Then, once he became murderous, he would lose consciousness. However, after experiencing these things, Jiang Qin also understood one thing. He had to improve his strength. Otherwise, he would be like a weak chicken that could be slaughtered. I hope Tian Song's body is not sentient, Jiang Qin said softly. Thinking back, after his and Yin Chang's bodies had gained sentience, it had given them a headache for a long time, especially Yin Chang's body, which was still in the neighboring academy. He did not know when Yin Chang'e would be able to merge with his body. What a strong, murderous aura! After a few seconds, Jiang Qin entered the range of the Tiger Head Mountain. He walked along the mountain path toward the peak of the Tiger Head Mountain. The terrifying, murderous aura was like a gray wind that whistled around him. It was very ear-piercing, like the cries of ghosts. At the same time, the murderous aura in Jiang Qin's body fluctuated slightly, as if it was about to awaken. I can't become murderous! Jiang Qin roared in his heart. 3 wisps of chaotic aura and the ever-changing heavenly lamp fell at the same time, suppressing the murderous aura in his body again. Chapter 941. The murderous aura on Tiger Head Mountain was extremely violent. It was like a hungry beast that wanted to devour Jiang Qin. Luckily, with the 3 strands of chaotic qi and the ever-changing heavenly lamp, the murderous aura in Jiang Qin's body finally calmed down. However, he could not stay here for long. Jiang Qin was at a loss when he arrived at the top of Tiger Head Mountain. There was not a single blade of grass on Tiger Head Mountain. There was no corpse at all. Jiang Qin used a secret technique and used his divine will to cover the entire mountain. However, he still could not find Tian Song's body. This made him very confused. Was Zhou Tianchong lying to him? However, there was no reason for Zhou Tianchong to lie to him. Could it be that Tian Song's body has gained sentience? Jiang Qin's expression changed. That was definitely the worst thing that could happen. If one's body gained sentience and his body became sacred, he would definitely become a giant if he cultivated for a period of time. With Jiang Qin's current cultivation, if Tian Song's body gained sentience, it would be difficult for him to subdue it. This meant that he had temporarily lost a physical body. After observing the mountain for a while, Jiang Qin's expression froze. He saw a burglar's hole. That's right, a burglar's hole that was covered by restrictions and arrays. The burglar's hole led directly to the inside of Tiger Head Mountain. Jiang Qin walked down the burglar's hole and soon saw a green gold coffin. However, the green gold coffin had been opened. There was nothing inside except for a note. I will take my brother's body first. The corners of Jiang Qin's mouth twitched as he read the note. He immediately understood what was going on. Mu Yud, are you trying to rob all the ancient tombs in the world? Jiang Qin roared in his heart. He did not expect Tian Song's body to be stolen by Mu Yud, even though it did not have sentience. Moreover, Mu Yud seemed to know that Tian Song's body belonged to him in his previous life and purposely left this note. What is he trying to do? You are really something. After a few breaths of time, Jiang Qin was somewhat unable to withstand the baleful aura here and hastily rushed out of the Tiger Head Mountain. He stood outside Tiger Head Mountain and stared at the place for a while. Then, with helplessness and anger, he fled into the void. 3 days later, in Tsang State, Jiang Qin passed through the canyon and arrived at the plains of the Tsang province. When he first came here, the sky above the plains was empty and there were no buildings. However, at this moment, almost half of the plains were occupied by palaces. As far as the eye could see, there were groups of palaces. Some of them were like ancient trees rooted in the ground, while others were like clouds, towering in the sky. One after another, spirit-gathering spell formations covered the entire plain. Divine light, which resembled tens of thousands of auspicious lights, seemed to fall from the heavens like a waterfall in a fairyland. In front of the palace in the middle, there was a huge plaque with the words Flourishing Age Academy carved in gold. An academy named after the Golden Age? Jiang Chen whispered. Suddenly, the gray-haired old man appeared in front of Jiang Chen and said with a smile, "Let's go." "How many people are there now?" Jiang Chen asked. "Flourishing Age Academy has just been established. It hasn't started recruiting yet," the gray-haired old man said. He brought Jiang Chen to a palace beside the central palace. "This will be your training ground from now on. You can cultivate here or accept disciples here to teach," the gray-haired old man said. Hearing that, Jiang Chen blinked and pointed at himself. He smiled bitterly and said, "I still have to accept disciples and teach? I'm just a lower real god. Why would I accept disciples?" "You're too modest," the gray-haired old man said softly. "As a divine king of several generations, everyone knows your identity. If you accept disciples, there will definitely be people coming." Hearing that, Jiang Chen knew that he couldn't run away from the matter of accepting disciples. However, Jiang Chen was very confused. Even if this academy was established in the world's edge, what was the use? Could it be that the world's edge had a way to cultivate a divine king in a short time? Or even to cultivate an expert who surpassed the divine king? Was this possible? If it was impossible, why was the academy established? Moreover, Jiuqin Court, Sky-Reaching Cult, Ground Extermination Sect, and even Light God Hall and Dark God Hall had sealed their mountains. There were also a few top forces that had sealed their mountains and didn't join the Flourishing Age Academy. In this way, the Flourishing Age Academy was only a facade and had no real substance. It was just like an empty shell. In a few days, the world's edge will announce to the world that we're recruiting disciples. At that time, you can go and pick the disciples yourself, the gray-haired old man said. "Is there any use?" Jiang Chen smiled bitterly. He looked around at the empty palace and said, "I'm the only teacher. There are a few more who should be on their way," the gray-haired old man said. "Buzz! Buzz!" As soon as he said that, he heard the sound of something breaking through the air from afar. A black-robed man came over on a black cloud. His body emitted a sinister aura. His hair was dark green, as if he was poisoned. "He's an elder of the Poison God Hall. He's a peak divine king," the gray-haired old man introduced. As soon as he finished speaking, the man landed. "You're the one who killed the holy son of the Poison God Hall?" When the black-robed man saw Jiang Chen, his killing intent soared, but he didn't make a move. Obviously, he was afraid of the gray-haired old man or the world's edge. "Don't tell me you want to avenge him?" Jiang Chen joked. "You should know the rules set by the world's edge." "It's because of the rules that I spared you," the black-robed man said coldly. Then he snorted and said, "If you can't kill the holy son of the same generation, then so be it. There are plenty of talented people in the Poison God Hall." Heh, Jiang Chen chuckled. He couldn't be bothered to argue with the black-robed man. At the same time, two other people also broke through the air and arrived. One of them was emitting a white light, as if he was shrouded in light. There was also a wisp of the great Tao flowing around him. "This is the descendant of the Clear Sky God Emperor. He's also here to be a mentor," the gray-haired old man introduced. "You're Tian Chen's reincarnation, right? I've heard of your name for a long time. Now that I've met you," the descendant of the Clear Sky God Emperor had a strange expression. He looked at Jiang Chen, who was only a lower true god, and couldn't find any words to praise him. Jiang Chen's face also reddened slightly. He said awkwardly, "I've heard of the Clear Sky God Emperor's name for a long time. Elder Su, are we the only 3 mentors?" The other man asked, pointing at the people of the Poison God Hall and the Clear Sky God Emperor. 4. The gray-haired old man pointed at Jiang Chen and said, "He's also a mentor." As soon as he said this, the other 3 people were stunned. Even if he was a divine king back then, was a lower true god really suitable to be a mentor with his current cultivation? When the time came, what if the people recruited were stronger than Jiang Chen? How could Jiang Chen convince them? "In a few days, a few special people will come here," the gray-haired old man said mysteriously. "For now, it's just the 4 of you." Chapter 942. Flourishing Age Academy was established with Jiang Chen, the descendant of Haotian Divine Emperor, the elder of Poison God Hall, and a mysterious man as instructors. The four of them lived in the four palaces next to the central square, named East, South, West, and North. Jiang Chun sat in the West Palace, the descendant of Haotian Divine Emperor in the East, the elder of Poison God Hall in the South, and the mysterious man in the South. At this point, the first step of the Academy's establishment was completed. Next was to announce to the world and recruit disciples. However, during this process, other than the descendant of Haotian Divine Emperor, the others had a lot of opinions about Jiang Chun. Firstly, Jiang Chun's cultivation was too low. Even if he was a divine king in his previous life, they didn't take him seriously. As for the second reason, it was obviously that Jiang Chun had come empty-handed. Poison God Hall, the descendant of Haotian Divine Emperor, and the mysterious man. When the three of them came to Flourishing Age Academy, they all brought cultivation techniques, cultivation resources, and many divine skills. However, Jiang Chun came empty-handed. He didn't bring anything with him. In the eyes of everyone, since he was now the imperial lord of Jiuqian court, even if he didn't bring the Nine Heavens mysterious technique, he should bring some other cultivation techniques. However, Jiang Chun came empty-handed. How thick-skinned! He came to Flourishing Age Academy to be an instructor without bringing anything. How shameless! The other two were extremely dissatisfied with Jiang Chun, but due to the prestige of the World's Edge, they didn't dare to say much. In the next few days, the World's Edge announced to the world, and for a time, many geniuses of the Nine Heavens divine world came to save their lives. Among them, there was no lack of disciples of some top sects, and even saint-level geniuses came. They came to Flourishing Age Academy not only to cultivate, but also to get the cultivation techniques of the World's Edge. Of course, if they could get the inheritance of Haotian Divine Emperor's Poison God Hall, it would be excellent. Just like that, with all parties having ulterior motives, the first enrollment ceremony of Flourishing Age Academy began. And as one of the four great instructors, Jiang Chun naturally had to go personally to recruit disciples. Of course, these were the disciples of Flourishing Age Academy, not Jiang Chun's disciples. He was just teaching these people how to cultivate, and they were not considered as disciples. Many people have come. There's no lack of disciples from peak sects, and some of them have even become overgods. It's fine for us. We're powerful enough to intimidate these people. Even if they're overgods, we can teach them a thing or two. The Poison God Temple Elder and the mysterious man stood in front of the central palace, looking at the tens of thousands of people in the square, their eyes gleaming. At the same time, they both looked at Jiang Chun with disdain. The descendant of the Clear Sky God Emperor did not say anything. He stood quietly at the side, and no one knew what he was thinking. At this moment, Jiang Chun didn't say anything and just let the two of them talk. Jiang Chun even thought that it would be best if he didn't accept any disciples. That way, he would have more free time and would have more time to cultivate. Everyone, Glory World Academy has been established. Currently, there are only 4 instructors. Each instructor can only accept 10 people at most, or they can choose not to. The gray-haired elder appeared with an indifferent expression and said, Glory World Academy only teaches the best. What? There are only 4 instructors in such a big academy? Even if all 4 instructors accept disciples, there will only be 40 of them. We have tens of thousands of people here. Many people were dissatisfied and worried that they wouldn't be able to enter Glory World Academy. After all, those who came to register this time were not ordinary people. Even some saints from top sects had come. It was easier said than done to stand out among this group of people. The number of soldiers is not important, but the quality. It's the same for Glory World Academy's disciples. We don't ask for many, but for quality, the gray-haired elder said. Senior, you're right. We don't have so much time to teach others. Accepting 10 disciples is already giving face to the World's Edge. The Poison God Temple Elder said bluntly. When his gaze swept across the living beings in the square, there was a trace of contempt in his eyes. The Poison God Temple was the inherited sect of the Poison God Emperor. Their vision was high, and their arrogance was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. One must know that in a certain era in the divine world of 9 heavens, the strongest was the god Emperor. Even now, the god Emperor was the strongest living being in the divine world of 9 heavens. Take your time to choose. Anyway, if you want to accept disciples, you have to accept the strongest. The mysterious man whispered, "Don't make a mistake." As soon as he finished speaking, his eyes lit up. Among the tens of thousands of people, his gaze locked onto a simple and honest fatty. Then, he pointed at the fatty and asked with a smile, Are you willing to enter my academy's South Hall?" As soon as he said this, many people turned their heads, their eyes filled with envy. Because as long as the simple and honest fatty nodded, he could become a disciple of Glory World Academy. However, to everyone's surprise, the simple and honest fatty shook his head and said with a silly smile, "I want to become a disciple of my boss." "Your boss? Who?" Everyone was puzzled, and some were shocked. They secretly thought that the simple and honest fatty's background was not small. Among the 4 instructors, one of them was his boss. Then this seniority was really high. One had to know that the 4 instructors were all old monsters who had lived for tens of thousands of years. In terms of status, they could be the ancestors of everyone present. Cough, cough. "He's mine." Jiangchen coughed a few times and also saw the simple and honest fatty. This person was Jiang Lu. After Jiangchen spoke, he waved his hand at Jiang Lu and said, "Come over and join the West Palace Hall." "Okay, boss." Jiang Lu's face was filled with joy. Under the envious and jealous gazes of the crowd, he ran to Jiang Chen's side. However, at this moment, the mysterious man seemed to be embarrassed because Jiang Chen had taken away his disciple. He couldn't help but snort coldly and said, "Do you know who I am? I am the ancestor of the Moon Clan, Yu Guang." The ancestor of the Moon Clan? At this moment, everyone exclaimed. They more or less knew about the ancestor of the Moon Clan. It was said that the ancestor of the Moon Clan had died a long time ago. It seemed that he had failed to break through to the Divine King realm and died. But now, this legendary figure had actually appeared here. Then, Yu Guang didn't die back then? Since he didn't die, that meant he succeeded in breaking through back then? I was wondering why he didn't treat me well. So it's the ancestor of the Moon Clan, Jiang Chen muttered. From the moment he saw this mysterious man, Jiang Chen was very puzzled. Why did he have some resentment and even hatred towards him? Now that he knew the identity of the other party, Jiang Chen couldn't help but feel relieved. Moon Clan? Isn't that the family of the Moon God? Boss, I heard that in your previous life, you and the Moon Goddess. Jiang Lu was a simple and honest man, and he spoke without thinking. Chapter 943. In the divine world of the 9 heavens, anyone who knew what had happened back then knew that the Moon God had died because of Jiang Chen. The Moon God was known as the most promising woman to become the Divine King. But because of Jiang Chen, the Moon God had fallen. Because of this, the Moon Clan was filled with resentment towards Jiang Chen. They even viewed Jiang Chen as an enemy. Just like Yu Xiangchen, when he saw Jiang Chen, his eyes were filled with killing intent. Jiang Chen also felt that he owed the Moon Clan. He had always wanted to go to the Moon Clan and apologize in person. He also wanted to tell them that the Moon God was still alive and had reincarnated to the godless continent. Now, when he met the Moon Clan's old ancestor, Jiang Chen was thinking about how to explain. But before he could think about it, Jiang Lu, this simple-minded person, actually said it in front of everyone. Wasn't this poking at the Moon Clan's sore spot? You still have the face to say it? If it weren't for the rules set by Tianya, I would kill you right now. Yu Guangming's face was dark. Cough, cough. The Moon God is not dead. She has reincarnated to the godless continent. Calculating the time, she should be ascending soon. Jiang Chen was embarrassed. He glared at Jiang Lu, thinking that if this guy was as smart as Mu Yud, he wouldn't be like this. Nonsense. Yu Guangming scolded. Do you think anyone can reincarnate? Do you know that not every living thing can enter the cycle of reincarnation after death? Not every living thing that enters the cycle of reincarnation can be successfully reincarnated. I don't need to lie to you, Jiangchen said. Regarding the moon god, I do owe the moon clan a lot, and I also owe the moon god a lot. But in this situation, do I need to lie to you? Yu Guangming frowned, as if he still didn't believe Jiangchen's words. But he also understood that Jiangchen didn't need to lie to him. If you don't see her return, you should pick a good place and choose your own grave. Yu Guangming said coldly. Don't be so heartless. We'll be a family from now on. Jiangchen had lived for a few lifetimes. The thickness of his skin wasn't something that ordinary people could compare to. Yue Guangming's mouth twitched. How did the moon goddess fall for Jiangchen? Wasn't this a fraud? Let's put your private matters aside for now. The gray-haired old man reminded them. We're currently recruiting disciples. I think that woman isn't bad. She's quite pretty, and her talent is also very good. If she's properly nurtured, she might become the holy maiden of my poison god temple and become Tao companions with the new holy son of my poison god temple. At this moment, the elder of the poison god hall looked at a woman in the crowd. Hearing this, everyone turned around to look. A woman with a veil on her face was standing quietly in the crowd. Her face could not be seen clearly, but her figure was very hot. Her slender waist could be easily grasped. The two mountains on his chest were also very eye-catching, especially her eyes, which seemed to be filled with peach blossoms. They were naturally charming and could captivate people's hearts. This elder of the poison god temple is a little lecherous, someone muttered. Although the voice was not loud, it did not escape the ears of the crowd. At this moment, the elder of the poison god temple blushed and said seriously, "This old man is eager to cherish talent. Don't talk nonsense." After saying this, the elder of the poison god temple looked at the woman and asked, "Are you willing to join my North Hall? If you're successful in the future, you can also join my poison god temple." "Many thanks, senior. I'm here to find master." The woman's voice was very soft and pleasant to the ears. It was also filled with endless charm. Then, under everyone's gaze, the woman removed her veil. Blinking her charming eyes, she looked at Jiangchen in front of the palace with a playful smile. Then, with a trace of hidden bitterness, she said, "Master, don't you want me anymore? Name." Jiangchen was dumbfounded. He really did not expect that his disciple would come. Then, since his disciple came, how could Jiangchen not accept her? "My good disciple, come." Jiangchen waved at Nayland Mayer and said with a smile, "From now on, you're a disciple of the West Hall of the Flourishing Age Academy." "Thank you, master." Nayland Mayer smiled charmingly and walked toward Jiangchen with her graceful figure swaying. Along the way, a group of people stared at Nayland Mayer without blinking. Especially the men. They had no resistance against this kind of beauty. "Brat, what do you mean? You want to snatch someone from my poison god temple?" The elder of the poison god temple's face fell, and killing intent emerged in his eyes. "What do you mean, snatch? She's my disciple," Jiangchen said snappily. "Besides, the poison god temple's reputation is so bad. I don't think many people would be willing to enter your sect." "You! Nonsense!" The elder of the poison god temple narrowed his eyes, and killing intent erupted. Suddenly, he saw the gray-haired old man smiling at him. In an instant, the elder of the poison god temple's killing intent disappeared. His face was as pale as still water as he said coldly, "Brat, one day, you'll lose your life." "I'm looking forward to it," Jiangchen said softly. "Everyone, there are tens of thousands of geniuses. Take your time to choose. There are plenty of suitable candidates." The gray-haired old man smiled and said, "Don't worry. Brat, you should take a good look first. Among these people, there are some who are here for you. Pick them all in one go." Yu Guang said solemnly, "There are so many people. How can I take a good look?" Jiangchen said snappily. If not for Yu Guang and the Poison God Temple's elder looking at Jianglu and Nayland Mayer, Jiangchen wouldn't have seen the two of them. "Boss, I'm here." "Me too. Me too." At this moment, Among the tens of thousands of people, Xiao Qingyi and Wakako walked out. Seeing this, Jiang Chun didn't say much. He waved his hand and said, "Come here." "Hey, you're abusing your power? You're recruiting people you know?" Someone said angrily. "What? You don't agree?" Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows and pointed at the ground under his feet. He said, "If you're so capable, you can be the mentor too." Everyone was speechless. They couldn't understand what Tianyao was thinking. How could they let Jiang Chun be the mentor? Even if he was a divine king in his previous life, the Glory World Academy was extraordinary. How could they let Jiang Chun, who was only a lower true god, be the mentor? "Boss, take him in too." Wakako pointed at Dongfang Wushuang beside him. "Okay." Jiang Chun had no objection. He could see that Wakako and Dongfang Wushuang had a good relationship. Moreover, the patriarch of the Dongfang family had helped Jiang Chun in the past. Then, it wouldn't be a problem to take in Dongfang Wushuang. "Master, Master." Suddenly, two gentle voices came from the crowd. Then, a woman in white waved at Jiang Chun. There was a trace of resentment on her peerless face. Her eyes were red, as if she was about to cry. "Bifing you?" Jiang Chun was moved. He didn't expect to meet his eldest disciple here. "Master, I've been looking for you for a long time." Bifing you seemed to be wronged. She blinked her beautiful eyes, and tears rolled in her eyes. Many people felt sorry for her. Chapter 944. Bifing Yu's eyes were filled with resentment, and she felt wronged. That was because when the group of people ascended, they separated. She had drifted alone until now, and she had no one to rely on. If not for her good luck in the ninth heaven divine world and not encountering any danger, she would have died long ago. After all, the ninth heaven divine world was too big, and the forces were complicated. There were all kinds of people. It was not easy for a rogue cultivator to live until now. This time, Bifing Yu came here to try her luck and see if she could meet some acquaintances. What she did not expect was that while she was drifting outside, her master was living a free and easy life and became a teacher of the Glory World Academy. How could Bifing Yu not feel wronged when compared to her living conditions? This brat is so romantic after reincarnating? Yu Guangming's face was ugly. He glanced at Jiang Chun, coughed a few times, and said, "If Yueshan is still alive, these are all my disciples." Jiang Chen's expression turned serious as he hurriedly explained. However, this explanation seemed to be weak and powerless. After all, the people present were not blind or stupid. How could they not see the intentions of Nayland Mayer and Bifing Yu towards Jiang Chen? "Master," at this moment, another woman's voice sounded. This time, the group was dumbfounded. They saw a seemingly ethereal woman with flowery shadows around her walk out of the crowd. She was wearing an ancient costume, as if she came from an ancient sect. Her appearance was still very good, and her figure was flawless. However, her eyes were filled with resentment. "Brat, how many female disciples did you take in?" Yu Guangming's face turned completely black, and he said, "You have to know how good my Yueshan was to you. You brat. This is really my disciple." Jiang Chen was rather embarrassed. He looked at the woman and said softly, "Liani, come over." That's right, this woman was also Jiang Chen's disciple, Hua Liani. And Hua Liani was also the only one among Jiang Chen's female disciples who had sex with him. Jiang Chen didn't dare to face Hua Liani at first, and he even felt guilty. But slowly, Jiang Chen also let go. Jiang Chen was very clear that since it had happened, he had to take responsibility. What's more, after interacting with these disciples, Jiang Chen also had feelings for them. As for what kind of feelings it was, Jiang Chen wasn't sure. However, there was one thing that Jiang Chen was very sure of, and that was that his disciples were just like his life. They could not be lost. What a pervert. Look at the disciples he has taken in. They have the looks and the figures. What a pervert. Many people spoke directly, not giving Jiang Chen any face. Jiang Chen's face flushed. He felt embarrassed. Jiang Chen cursed silently. Could he be blamed for taking in these female disciples? Bifing Yu had the great moon saint physique. Hualiani had the 10,000 spirit saint physique, and Nayland Mayer was a war dancer. Was it too much to take in these talented saint physiques? Who asked them to be women? Jiang Lu, Wakako, Xiao Qingyi, Dongfang Wushuang, Bai Fengyu, Nayland Mayer, Hualiani. That's 7. Someone muttered. Moreover, the 7 disciples that Jiang Chun took in were all his people. Do you think Glory World Academy is your home? All the disciples you took in are your people. What? You want to establish your own force in Glory World Academy? The Poison God Emperor's elder said with a gloomy face. This is the academy. What you're saying is pointless. Jiang Chun said softly. Although these people are all my people, I didn't abuse my personal power, and I didn't think of establishing my own force in Glory World Academy. The disciples I took in are all talented geniuses, and they are all qualified to enter Glory World Academy. As soon as these words were spoken, it naturally caused many people to be dissatisfied, especially those who had yet to enter Glory World Academy. All of them were emitting battle intent, and someone even directly said provocatively, Jiang Chun, how strong is this disciple of yours? Do you dare to come out and fight? Yes, let's fight. If they're not strong enough, then they can't join Glory World Academy. This is the academy, not your home. For a moment, many people agreed. Jiang Chen's expression was indifferent when he heard this. He even chuckled a few times and said, it seems that everyone is not convinced, right? Then let's fight according to your wishes. With that, Jiang Chen glanced at Jiang Lu and said, you go? Okay, boss. Jiang Lu was very obedient. He walked out from Jiang Chen's side and cupped his hands at the group of people not far away. He said, I'm Jiang Lu, and I've just broken through to the lower level God realm. Who wants to spar with me? I'll do it. As soon as he finished speaking, they saw a middle-aged man walk out. His cultivation was also at the lower level God realm, but at his age, he had lived for at least 10,000 years. Many people cursed silently. Why is he still coming to school at this age? This is Glory World Academy, and you've only cultivated to the lower level God realm at this age. It's obvious that your aptitude and talent are not good enough. Even if you can defeat Jiang Lu, the academy will probably not want you. However, at this moment, no one cared so much. Many people only wanted to see Jiang Chen fight, and more importantly, they wanted to see how the gray-haired old man representing Glory World Academy would react if Jiang Lu was defeated. Jiang Lu, be gentle. Don't hurt him, Jiang Chen reminded him. Jiang Chen knew how strong Jiang Lu was. Now that his eternal sacred body had evolved and advanced, his combat strength was a mess. Jiang Lu probably didn't even need to use any divine skills or Taoist skills now. He could crush most people of the same level just by relying on his physical body. My boss told me to be gentle in case I hurt you. Jiang Lu was still so honest, and he passed on Jiang Chen's words to the middle-aged man. For the middle-aged man, these words were undoubtedly a mockery. At this moment, the middle-aged man couldn't stand it anymore. He took a step forward, and his aura rose. As he waved his fists, the aura of the Great Path appeared. Boom! Boom! Immediately after that, 2 rays of light shot out like millstones, causing the void to crack. Moreover, lightning and flames erupted from the 2 rays of light. Although this middle-aged man's aptitude is not good, he has cultivated for a long time and has a solid foundation. His strength can't be underestimated, someone said. Boom! However, at this moment, Jiang Lu rushed over. He didn't even make a move. His whole body rushed over like a primordial bull. When the 2 fists landed on his body, they were like clouds and smoke and were directly scattered. After a few breaths, Jiang Lu rushed in front of the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was stunned, and then Jiang Lu punched him in the chest. The simple punch seemed to contain a power that could destroy the world. It directly shattered the middle-aged man's protective divine power and sent him flying 1,000 meters away. Chapter 9:45. He blocked the opponent's divine skill with his physical body and then sent him flying with an ordinary punch. His movements were smooth and without any fancy moves, but it gave people a feeling that he was unstoppable. What is this guy's physical body made of? It's so fierce, so powerful. The strength of his physical body is probably not weaker than the mighty body. Many people exclaimed. Some people stared at Jianglu with flickering runes in their eyes, as if they wanted to see through Jianglu's essence. At this moment, the middle-aged man fell to the ground. After groaning for a while, he fainted directly. Someone went up to check his condition. Immediately, his expression changed and he said in a deep voice, "His dantian is broken, his godhead is broken, and his cultivation is crippled." What? His cultivation is crippled? This idiot is so heavy-handed? Someone shouted angrily, pointing at Jianglu and scolding. "What do you mean by this? It's just a spar. How could you kill him?" Jianglu was innocent. He had been very careful just now. Otherwise, the punch just now would have killed the middle-aged man. "Everyone, my brother didn't control his strength. He didn't do it on purpose," Jiangchen explained. "Moreover, a battle between cultivators is a spar to learn from each other. To put it bluntly, it's a fight to the death, isn't it? Do you really think that a battle between cultivators can end here?" Hearing this, the crowd fell silent. For a moment, no one refuted. After all, everyone knew that cultivators were different from mortals. A cultivator's strength could be great or small. A slight mistake could be fatal. Therefore, the so-called spar between cultivators was just a joke. If a fight really broke out, who would spar with you? Who would stop when the fight was over? Wasn't that nonsense? Jianglu, a lower-level god, defeated the one in the same realm. "Do you have any objections now?" Jiangchen asked. "That person is old, but he's only a lower-level god. His talent is naturally not good. It's normal for him to lose." Someone was unconvinced and said, "Does Jianglu dare to fight with the genius of his generation?" "Yes. If he can defeat the genius of his generation, then we'll be convinced." Hearing these words, Jiang Chun sneered, thinking that these people really looked down on Jianglu. This seemingly simple and honest young man's battle prowess was a complete mess. Moreover, when Jianglu had joined the Li sect, he had been highly valued by the sect leader of the Li sect. Presumably, he had inherited the foundation of the Li sect. As for the strength sect, they were best at teaching physical sage bodies. They had a unique cultivation method that could make their saintly bodies even more powerful. Thinking about it, Jianglu's sacred body of Archean must have evolved and advanced after entering the Li zone. Furthermore, what was the so-called master of strength? Its purpose was to break through everything with brute force. Jiang Chen was sure that only a few people in the same state could defeat Jianglu, thanks to his dreadful physical body. "Let me try." At this moment, Tianzi walked out. His eyes were cold as he stared at Jiang Chun. He really wanted to fight with Jiang Chun, but Jiang Chun was now a mentor of Shengshu Academy. Therefore, he could only look for Jianglu. Moreover, he was also very curious about how strong this simple and honest young man was. "Tianzi, stop fooling around. If you really fight and lose, your identity as the Kunlun Mountain Holy Sun will be lost," Jiang Chen joked. "I will lose?" Tianzi raised his eyebrows. His eyes were filled with arrogance and confidence. He said, "Who am I? I am Tianzi, and I am number one. Arrogant people like you. Even if there aren't 10 of them, there are at least 5 who have lost to me. You are one more." Wakako could not listen to it anymore. He stepped out, stared at Tianzi, and hooked his finger at him, saying, "Come." In the face of Wakako's provocation and ridicule, Tianzi was bound to attack. However, what no one expected was that after Tianzi heard this, his expression became serious. After a moment of silence, he said, "I will fight with Jianglu." When these words came out, many people were stunned. Was Tianzi not avoiding the battle? Could it be that he was afraid of Wakako? "I heard that a while ago, the Dongfang Imperial clan appeared. Dongfang Wushuang and Wakako entered the ancestral land of the Dongfang Imperial clan and seemed to have obtained the inheritance of the Imperial clan. It's no wonder. If Wakako obtained the inheritance of the Dongfang Imperial clan, then it's natural for Tianzi to be afraid. An informed person revealed this, which could be considered to have saved some of Tianzi's face. Enough! Today is a recruitment day, not a time for you to mess around. The gray-haired old man said in a deep voice, "Choose your own disciples. Whoever you like will be that person." "Senior, he is abusing his power," someone said in dissatisfaction. Abusing his power? The gray-haired old man raised his eyebrows. His voice suddenly turned cold as he said, "He is a teacher of the Flourishing Age Academy. What he is doing is what my Flourishing Age Academy wants to do." This senior is unreasonable. Many people cursed in their hearts, but they did not dare to say much. Tianzi also retreated. Although he was the holy son of the Kunlun Mountain, he did not dare to go against the gray-haired old man. After all, behind the gray-haired old man was the entire Tsang state. "I say, are there still 3 seats in the West Palace Hall? Did you leave any for me?" At this moment, Luing also walked out of the crowd. He frowned at Jiang Chun and said, "What? You don't want me to come in?" "Yo, the young master of the Ultimate Shadow Sect, Luing. Welcome, welcome." Jiang Chun said with a smile, "Young Master Luing is willing to come to the West Palace Hall. It is my West Palace Hall's honor." Can you not be so exaggerated?" Luing said snappily. Then he slowly walked to Jiang Chen's side and whispered in his ear, "You are so warm to me. Do you want to rope in my Ultimate Shadow Sect?" A straightforward person does not resort to insinuations. "I need the support of the Ultimate Shadow Sect," Jiang Chun said directly. "Kunlun Mountain and Ao Lai Heavenly Sect are not weaker than my Ultimate Shadow Sect." Luing teased, "You can accept Tianzi and Qinzhulu. Stop fooling around. Although there is no deep hatred between me and Kunlun Mountain and Ao Lai Heavenly Sect, our relationship is not good." Jiang Chun curled his lips. "Do you think I can accept them?" Moreover, among these people, Tianzi and Qinzhulu were not necessarily the strongest. They might not even be qualified to enter the Flourishing Age Academy. These 2 people, don't underestimate them. Luing said, "Some people are very shrewd. You can't see through them." "Oh, you mean Tianzi and Qinzhulu are hiding their strength?" Jiang Chun was stunned. Then, why would Tianzi and Qinzhulu hide their strength? One must know that if these 2 people were strong enough, they would have become the true holy sons of Kunlun Mountain and Ao Lai Heavenly Sect. In Jiang Chen's eyes, these 2 people should have shown extremely strong combat strength and talent. Showing off your ability is bound to lead to a lot of accidents. Luing poked Jiang Chen's shoulder and reminded him, "Especially now that you are like this. I'm afraid some forces have already targeted you." Chapter 946. Jiang Chen was also very clear that his identity was very special. Even if Tianya had set the rules now, his situation was not very safe. Just as Luing said, there were many forces eyeing him. It was just that those forces were hindered by Tianya and did not take action. However, once there was a slight oversight, Jiang Chun was afraid that he would fall into a desperate situation. However, Jiang Chun was also at a loss now. There were too many forces in the 9th Heaven Divine world. On the surface, there were more than 100 forces in the dark, and some forces had been very low-key, so much so that the world did not even know that such forces existed. Therefore, Jiang Chun was not sure which forces were eyeing him. It was also because of this that Jiang Chun entered Shengshi Academy. His main purpose was to protect himself. Jiang Chun was very clear that as long as he was in Tsang state, under the eyes of Tianya, those forces would not dare to act recklessly. "You can still accept 2 disciples. Have you thought about it?" Luing asked. Hearing this, Jiang Chen shook his head. Those who knew him, those who were related to him, had basically come and accepted them. As for the remaining 2 places, Jiang Chen really did not know who to choose. "Let's see first," Jiang Chen whispered. There were so many people, he could not see all of them in a short time. Then, the Poison Temple, Hao Tian God Emperor's successor, and Yu Guangming began to accept disciples. They had good eyesight, picking out the most powerful group of people in this group. Soon, these 3 people also accepted disciples, each of them 10. Among them, Chinjulu and Tianzi were accepted as disciples of Haoyan, God Emperor's successor, which was a good place to belong. Only the West Hall is left. Sigh. How can such a big Shengshi Academy only accept 40 people? Many people sighed, feeling very helpless. They all knew that in the future, the strongest academy in the 9th Heaven Divine world would be Shengshi Academy. If they could enter Shengshi Academy, not to mention their future achievements, at least they would not have to worry about cultivation resources. Unfortunately, Shengshi Academy had just been established and there were too few teachers, so they could only accept 40 people. At this moment, everyone's gaze fell on Jiang Chun. This was because the West Hall, where Jiang Chun was from, only had 2 spots left in the Flourishing Age Academy's 40 spots. Someone spoke up, recommending himself. He really wanted to enter Shengshi Academy. Suddenly, Jiang Chun's eyes narrowed. He saw a woman. That woman had been standing in the crowd the entire time. She was very quiet and did not say anything. She wore a veil and was not very eye-catching. It was only at this moment that Jiang Chun noticed the other party. After a few careful glances, he could not help but point at the woman and say, "I want her." As soon as he said that, everyone's gazes landed on the masked woman. At the same time, Bai Fengyu, Nayland Mayer, and Hua Liani had strange expressions on their faces, and their eyes were filled with resentment. "Master, why are you taking in a female disciple again?" Bai Fengyu pouted and was very unhappy. Hua Liani frowned and wondered what was wrong with her master. Was his luck with women too good, or did he really have a hobby of taking in female disciples? Nayland Mayer smiled charmingly. Her slender jade-like hands clasped onto Jiang Chun's waist and gently twisted it. She said softly, "Master, you have to think carefully." Hiss. Even though Jiang Chun's physical body was extremely strong, he still sucked in a breath of cold air when his waist was twisted. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and explained, "That's an old acquaintance, Tian Shui." "Tian Shui? She's here too?" Wakako and the rest were very surprised. After all, they had not seen Tian Shui for a long time. Jiang Chun was also surprised. He originally thought that after Tian Shui came to the 9th Heaven Divine world, she would be together with her ancestor, the Empress. He did not expect Tian Shui to be alone. At this moment, after hearing Jiang Chun's words, Tian Shui did not say a word and directly came to Jiang Chun's side. At this moment, the West Hall of the Flourishing Age Academy had 9 disciples. 9 already? With so many people, I'm afraid there's no hope for us. Many people sighed. There were too few spots in the academy. It was too difficult to be selected among so many people. There's still one last person. Pick as you wish. Jiang Chun said softly. The earlier they finished, the earlier they could finish. Can this old man join the West Hall? At this moment, a bald old man in tattered clothes walked out. His body had a rotten aura, as if his physical body had already collapsed. His soul was dim and lightless. It was obvious that he had lived for countless years. His blood chi had dried up and his soul was about to be extinguished. His cultivation was only at the lower level God realm. This old man, what is he thinking? He is about to die, but he has only cultivated to the lower level God realm. With such talent, how can he join the Flourishing Age Academy? Old man, go back. The Flourishing Age Academy only recruits geniuses. Don't come out and make a fool of yourself. Many people mocked him. There were even people who took a few steps back, not wanting to be too close to this old man. It was because the rotten aura on this old man's body was too strong. Smelling it made one want to vomit. Old man, this Flourishing Age Academy, Jiang Chun said softly. He wanted to refuse. After all, even if he were to randomly pick one, he couldn't pick this kind of person. This old man was obviously a person who was about to die. After taking him into the West Hall, could it be that he was going to be buried? However, before Jiang Chun finished speaking, the 3 wisps of chaotic aura in the depths of his soul suddenly vibrated. At the same time, the myriad transformations heavenly lamp lit up brightly as if to illuminate Jiang Chen's soul world. Jiang Chen's heart palpitated as he stared at the old man. Could it be that the chaotic aura and the myriad transformations' heavenly lamp had changed because of this person? However, this old man was really very ordinary. He was clearly a person who was about to die. Banished one. Suddenly, Jiang Chen's ears twitched. He heard the gray-haired old man muttering, "Banished one." Jiang Chen frowned. This was the first time he heard this title. This old man hasn't cultivated for a long time. I just came out and don't have any cultivation resources. Can I borrow the Flourishing Age Academy to cultivate for a while? The bald old man said sincerely, "As long as I can enter the academy, I will definitely repay you when my cultivation is successful." Old man, you have one foot in the coffin. How are you going to cultivate? You really know how to joke. What do you mean you haven't cultivated for a long time? With your talent, even if you cultivate every minute and second, it will be difficult for you to achieve anything. Just as everyone was mocking him, the old man smiled. A different kind of light flashed through his turbid eyes. He said softly, "This old man is called Hun Gang." Old man, this? Jiang Chun was a little troubled. Although the chaotic aura and the myriad transformations' heavenly lamp had changed because of this old man, he couldn't accept this old man. After all, in everyone's eyes, this old man really didn't have the right to enter the Flourishing Age Academy. However, when Yu Guangming, the Poison God Hall's elders, and the Clear Sky God Emperor's descendants heard the two words Hun Gang, their expressions changed drastically. Even the gray-haired old man's eyes shone brightly. His face was full of shock. Chapter 947. The first time Glory World Academy recruited students, those who came to register were all geniuses and monsters. Of course, there were also some elders of top sects and even leaders of forces. In front of this group of people, an old man who was about to die announced his name. What was the meaning of this? Many people were stunned for a moment. Some people's eyes shone brightly, as if realizing something. Jiang Chun was also deep in thought. There must be a reason for announcing his name in front of so many people. Heavenly Chaos Dipper. Right at this moment, the gray-haired old man stared at the bald old man. After the two old fellows looked at each other, they suddenly grinned. At the same time, a peaked chief god in the crowd exclaimed, "Heavenly Chaos Dipper, the one who died in Eternal City 100,000 years ago." The moment these words came out, exclamations immediately sounded one after another. The beings of Nine Heavens Divine World naturally knew about Eternal City. That was an important place to resist foreign invasions. And Nine Heavens Divine World would send people over to Eternal City every once in a while. 100,000 years ago, there was a person with mysterious origins who called himself Heavenly Dipper, nicknamed Chaos Dipper. At that time, this person's life was a complete mess. With peak chief god cultivation, he suppressed a godly king with his strength alone. That battle could be said to have alarmed the entire Nine Heavens. One had to know that the power of a godly king was not what ordinary people could contend against. Back then, the Light Chief God and others joined forces with 36 people, setting up layers of complete sets and ambushes before barely killing Jiang Chun. And back then, Heavenly Dipper went against the top with his strength alone, suppressing a peak godly king of the present generation. This combat strength could not be not feared. It was just a pity that back then Eternal City was in a state of emergency. Heavenly Dipper resolutely set out for Eternal City. It was not until a long time later that news was sent back that he died in battle. But what people did not expect was that the Heavenly Dipper who died in battle back then was actually still alive and returned to Nine Heavens Divine World. It was just that many people were puzzled. What was going on with such a powerful and ferocious person back then with such a low cultivation and dried-up blood chi? There were also people who suspected that this old man was not that Heavenly Dipper. Back then, this old man fought a bloody battle in the foreign territory and was seriously injured and on the verge of death. I was lucky enough to escape. Hun Gang explained. After sleeping for countless years in the foreign battlefield, he woke up not long ago and dragged his incomplete body back to the nine heavens divine realm. Then, Senior, what's your current situation? Someone asked, probing the depths of chaos aura. This was because these people would not believe him based on Huangong's words alone. The most important thing was that he returned from the foreign battlefield. There were people who suspected that Chaos Dipper might have some sort of relationship with the other side. Otherwise, how could someone who had clearly died in battle suddenly appear in the continent of the Nine Clouds? He was seriously injured and dragged on for nearly 100,000 years. Now he only has a single breath left. As you can see, if I don't have enough cultivation resources, I will die. But how can we prove that you're a Chaos Celestial? A peak overgod asked. That's right. The relationship between the six realms and the other side can be said to be undying and imperishable. You have also returned from the other side's battlefield, so we must treat you seriously. In the face of everyone's questions and doubts, Hong Kong bitterly smiled. Indeed, there was no way to prove himself. It was because the people who fought with him back then were all dead, and his own life-bound artifact was also destroyed in the battle. Now, all that was left of him was this half-dead body. I believe you. Right at this moment, Jiang Chen suddenly spoke. He stared at Hong Kong and said seriously, Senior, if you don't mind, you can come to the West Hall. Jiang Chen, this matter is very important. Don't mess around. Someone reprimanded angrily. What if he's a spy sent by the other side? That's right. This kind of thing happened in the past. This person has to be investigated clearly. However, everyone present knew that it was too difficult to investigate Hunking's identity. There were no witnesses or material evidence. It would take a lot of time to investigate clearly. Without 30 to 50 years or even thousands of years, one could forget about investigating Hunking's identity at all. Could Hong Kong afford to wait in his current state? Not to mention 30 to 50 years, he probably could not even wait 3 to 5 years. Sigh. At this moment, Hong Kong let out a long sigh. A trace of bitterness and loneliness flashed through his eyes. But more importantly, there was a kind of sadness. Once upon a time, he suppressed the Divine King and was hailed as the strongest master god in history. At that time, how glorious was he? Even when he left the Eternal Fortress and went to war in the other side, he was also glorious. But who would have thought that after returning, he would be suspected by everyone? Hunking's heart turned cold. The hot blood he had shed on the foreign battlefield seemed to have been wasted. He began to doubt whether it was right or wrong to protect the nine heavens divine world. Has anyone present been to the Eternal Fortress? Have you fought with the creatures of the other side? Do you know the cruelty in the Eternal Fortress? Have you seen those old, weak women and children who have been fighting all their lives? White bones piled up into mountains. Some were younger than 10 years old, and some had their limbs broken. These people gave everything for the six realms, for the nine heavens divine world. You have never seen it, and you won't know that there is such a group of people in this world who are silently giving their all for you, never asking for anything in return. Jiang Chen's heart throbbed. He swept his gaze across everyone and said coldly, Now that he has returned, your suspicions and guesses are naturally correct, but aren't you afraid of hurting people's hearts by doing this? Even if he is a spy sent by the other side, what does the nine heavens divine world have to fear? Why can't we trust him for once? Facing Jiang Chen's words, everyone fell silent. After all, they knew about the existence of the Eternal Fortress, but they didn't know how cruel it was inside. Some people had been in the Eternal Fortress since the moment they were born. They didn't have much interest, only the responsibility of guarding the Eternal Fortress. Back when Jiang Chen was in the Eternal Fortress, he saw with his own eyes that those youths who were similar in age to him stepped into the battlefield. They were basically dead. Did those people deserve to die? No, they didn't deserve to die. They were only guarding the last line of defense of the six realms. Some people didn't even know why they had to protect the Eternal Fortress when they died in battle. At an ignorant age, they shouldered an unclear fate and responsibility. When they stepped onto the battlefield, they went without returning. Back then, If Jiang Chun hadn't been strong enough, he would have died in the battlefield of the other side. Everyone, I know what you're worried about. At this moment, the gray-haired old man spoke and said seriously, "This person is like the West Hall. If anything happens to him, I, the world's edge, will take responsibility." What if he's really a spy sent by the other side? Someone asked. He is alone. How can I, the world's edge, be afraid? The gray-haired old man raised his eyebrows, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He said, "You don't believe me?" As soon as these words came out, everyone immediately shut up. They could all see that the gray-haired old man's attitude was very clear and firm. He was going to protect the mixed-strength realm to the death. Chapter 948. The World's Edge was a top force that had never declined since ancient times. Everyone was in awe of this force. Now, since the gray-haired old man who represented the World's Edge had spoken, no one objected. However, many people still felt uncomfortable and fearful. After all, anything related to the foreign realm was not a small matter. Back then, it was because the 6 realms underestimated the foreign realm that the 5 realms were destroyed, leaving only the divine realm. Now, a person who returned from the foreign realm's battlefield, if they could not prove his identity, no one would be at ease. The World's Edge is so impressive. You dare to take in a person of unknown origin. Do you really think that the World's Edge is the one who calls the shots in this world? Suddenly, a voice filled with extreme hostility rang out. Everyone looked around, but they could not find the source of the voice. "Fellow cultivator, can you show yourself?" a peak lord asked with a nervous expression. It was because, as a peak lord, he could not find the owner of the voice. Moreover, this person was hostile. No one knew if he was targeting the World's Edge or everyone present. "A little rat?" The gray-haired old man had a look of contempt as he stared at a certain spot in the void. He had long sensed that creature. However, the gray-haired old man did not make a move. This made everyone very puzzled. The gray-haired old man was obviously the strongest person present. Moreover, this was Tsang State, the territory of the World's Edge. He had the strength and confidence to make a move. However, he did not do so. This made everyone puzzled. Some people were even shocked. Could it be that the gray-haired old man was afraid of the person who spoke in secret? Was the gray-haired old man weaker than the other party? Or was the World's Edge weaker than the other party's force? If it was the former, everyone could understand why the gray-haired old man did not make a move. What if it was the latter? Was there really a force in this world that could compete with the World's Edge? This person is not simple. If the World's Edge does not investigate his background, it will be difficult to convince the public. In the void, the living being spoke once more. As soon as he finished speaking, he walked out of the void. He was shrouded in a gray mist with great Tao runes floating on it. His appearance could not be seen clearly. However, one thing was certain. He was not afraid of the gray-haired old man, and he was not afraid of the World's Edge. Otherwise, he would not dare to come out. Peak Divine King. This aura, I'm afraid it's not weaker than the gray-haired old man at the edge of the world, right? Everyone was shocked. Even Jiang Chen's eyelids twitched. This was because he had sensed that the man's divine sense had brushed past his body at a certain moment. Were they targeting him? You came out of the World's Edge in advance, but you have seized the opportunity. But in the future, the situation of the divine realm of the 9 heavens will not be decided by you. Then, he directly pointed at Jiang Chun and said, "What's the meaning of leaving this person alive?" As soon as these words were spoken, the group of people was dumbfounded. What was going on? Can't Jiang Chun stay? Jiang Chun was also dumbfounded. He thought to himself, what does this creature mean? There was a hidden meaning in his words. "It's not up to you to tell me what to do in the World's Edge," the gray-haired old man said coldly. His face was filled with killing intent. However, he did not make a move in the end. He pointed at the distance, his eyelids drooping slightly. He looked very calm and said, "Go back to where you came from." "Heh, the World's Edge." The creature shrouded in the gray fog snorted with contempt and said, You are really stupid to place your hopes on the younger generation. The grass will turn yellow, the flowers will wither. The younger generation is like tender grass and new flowers. If they bloom, they can block the frost, the gray-haired old man said. Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, a tremor suddenly came from the depths of its song state. Then, everyone saw a stalwart man appear in the sky. He did not come over, but a pair of purple eyes were like the sun, watching over here. At the same time, everyone could clearly feel that the gray fog shook, as if it was very afraid of that man. The gray-haired old man bowed respectfully to the man in the air and said softly, Lord, Lord, that man, could he be the master of the world's edge? What a terrifying feeling. He stood there alone, as if he was holding up the entire sky. Zishao, he is still the same. At this moment, when the elders of the Poison God Hall and the descendants of the Clear Sky God Emperor saw that man, they did not hide the fear in their eyes. Others might not know that man's identity, but the two of them knew it very well. This man was the master of the world's edge, Zishao. This time, the main reason why the two God Emperors helped the world's edge establish an academy was because of Zishao. Even the descendants of the two God Emperors knew that the reason why they helped the academy was because the two God Emperors did not dare to provoke Zishao. Not only were they afraid, but they were also terrified. He is holding up an entire force by himself. He is immortal. Just what level has his cultivation reached? The elders of the Poison God Hall and the descendants of the Clear Sky God Emperor were shocked. They kept looking at Zishao, wanted to see clearly and understand. However, someone like Zishao was surrounded by the Great Tao, and even the Great Tao could not get close to him. How could an ordinary person see through such a person? You are a guest. At this moment, Zishao's voice sounded. There was not a trace of emotion in it, and it was ethereal. However, when the living being in the gray fog heard these words, his body trembled slightly, and he immediately escaped into the void. Since you are here, why don't you stay for a while longer? Zishao asked. With a wave of his hand, a purple seal rushed into the void. In an instant, the void shattered, and the purple talisman turned into a palm that captured the man in the gray mist. Zishao, don't you dare do anything rash. The man in the gray fog was terrified. He could not remain calm, and even his tone of voice changed. He knew how terrifying Zishao was, so he did not dare to struggle. Since ancient times, the world's edge has always won people over with virtue, Zishao said softly. Zishao said softly. His purple eyes stared at the living being in the gray fog. He said, however, there are times when virtue is not enough to convince others, so there must be blood. Zishao, you are not the strongest in this world. The living being in the gray fog was completely flustered. He could feel the murderous intent in Zishao's heart. So, what if I'm not the strongest? How many people are stronger than me? Zishao said softly. Do they dare to make a move? After saying that, Zishao slowly raised his palm. A purple light appeared like an ocean and slowly fell toward the living being in the gray fog. Zishao, you are the master of the world's edge. Is it necessary to attack a small fry? Suddenly, an invisible pressure appeared and scattered the light in Zishao's hand. At the same time, a slightly frivolous voice sounded in this place. Chapter 949. The formless pressure dispersed the light from Zishao's palm. That frivolous voice had a demonic quality to it that was captivating. Everyone was shocked. Another supreme expert had appeared. Moreover, this person seemed to be fearless of Zishao and dared to attack him openly. However, everyone could see that the two sides had no intention of fighting. Otherwise, the invisible pressure would not have been as simple as scattering the light in Zishao's palm. I have to watch my own child carefully. It's not good to cause trouble outside, Zishao said softly and threw the Peak Divine King out as if he was throwing trash. This was truly hard to imagine. A dignified peak divine king level living being was like an ant in front of Zi Xiao. Everyone was guessing what level Zi Xiao's cultivation had reached. Could it be that he had surpassed an emperor god? Or even a higher level? Everyone, Glory World Academy doesn't want you, but Linlang Academy welcomes you. At that moment, the frivolous voice sounded again. 3 days later, Linlang Academy will open in the extreme state. If you are interested, you can come to Linlang Academy. Linlang Academy is not afraid of anyone who comes. After saying that, the peak divine king escaped into the void, and the person who spoke in the dark did not speak anymore. Obviously, both of them had left. Zi Xiao did not attack, as if he was afraid. Who is that person? He can actually make the master of Tianya afraid. Is there really an existence in this world that can compete with Tianya? Many people were shocked and guessed. The gray-haired elder was silent as his gaze fell on Zi Xiao. He seemed to be waiting for Zi Xiao to speak. However, Zi Xiao did not say a word and disappeared instantly. This made more people certain that Tianya was not the strongest. In this world, there were indeed forces that could compete with Tianya. Humph! If Glory World Academy doesn't accept us, there are plenty of places to go. That's right. Let's go to Linlang Academy first. Maybe it's not worse than here. Why are you pretending to be high profile? Such a big academy only accepts 40 people. Is your strength and foundation not enough? Those who didn't enter the Glory World Academy opened their mouths. Their voices were very unpleasant and carried a hint of mockery. Obviously, they had resentment in their hearts. The gray-haired old man didn't say much about it. He calmly treated it and dismissed the crowd. For a moment, the huge, flourishing age academy seemed a little empty, and a strand of tense and oppressive aura filled the air. They've also come into being. The descendant of the clear sky, God Emperor, said softly. He looked at the gray-haired elder and said in a deep voice, "Their lineage is the sworn enemy of the world's edge. Don't involve us in your matters. That faction is targeting your world's edge. It has nothing to do with us." I hope you can report this to Lord Zi Xiao and not implicate others. The elder of the Poison God Hall had a grave expression, as if he was very afraid of that faction. When the gray-haired old man heard this, he nodded with a smile and said, "Everyone, don't worry. All of you are here to pass on the Tao and receive guidance. You won't be implicated in anything." With that, the gray-haired old man pointed at the central hall and said, "Cultivation methods, divine skills, and Tao skills are all in there. If you're interested, you can study and cultivate them." Oh, is the world's edge's secret technique also here? Tianzi's eyes flashed. Clearly, he was here for the secret technique of world's edge. As long as you can comprehend it. The gray-haired old man nodded. Then, the gray-haired old man briefly introduced the Flourishing Age Academy and disappeared. My head hurts. This era is really chaotic. The descendant of the clear sky God Emperor held his head and sighed. The elder of the Poison God Hall also sighed. He glanced at the descendant of the clear sky God Emperor and asked, "Does the clear sky God Emperor know about this?" "I don't think so. That faction has always been very mysterious, 100 times more mysterious than the world's edge." The descendant of the clear sky God Emperor shook his head and frowned. After thinking for a while, he said, "I don't know what the clear sky ancestor is thinking. Even now, he still hasn't come out. My ancestor is the same. He hasn't come out. I really don't know what he's thinking. The flourishing age is coming. If a few God Emperors come out, they can also occupy a region and become kings and lords." The elder of the Poison God Hall muttered. At this moment, Jiang Chen's expression was calm, but his eyes were a little absent-minded. Just now, the peak divine king of the mysterious faction sent a strand of divine sense to him. In the strand of divine sense, there was a message which was actually reminding him to leave this place quickly. Was this out of good intentions? Or did it have other intentions? Jiang Chen couldn't tell and couldn't figure it out. After all, he knew nothing about that mysterious faction. All of you go to the Central Palace to take a look. If you can comprehend some divine skills, it will be excellent. Jiang Chun came back to his senses. His heart was in a mess. After saying this, he went back to the West Palace. Bai Fengyu and the others knew Jiang Chun well. Seeing him like this, they didn't disturb him and entered the central palace. Only Lu Ying didn't leave. He followed Jiang Chun into the West Palace. "What are you thinking about?" Lu Ying came in front of Jiang Chun and asked, "Are you thinking about that mysterious faction? Do you know anything about that faction?" Jiang Chun asked. Lu Ying shook his head and smiled bitterly. "You heard it just now. That faction is 100 times more mysterious than the world's edge. There are no records of it in the ancient books. Although my ultimate shadow sect is well informed, we don't know anything about that faction. I feel that the people from that faction came here today because of me." Jiang Chun muttered. "It feels very strange. Of course it's for you." All of a sudden, Chaos Gang walked in. He staggered with unsteady steps, looking like he was about to collapse. His vitality was severely depleted. His soul was flickering like a candle in the wind, about to be extinguished at any time. Jiang Chun walked over and helped him to the side. He asked, "Senior, do you know that faction?" "The Pingtian clan," Hun Gang said. "Their inheritance is probably even older than the world's edge." "The Pingtian clan?" At that moment, Lu Ying cried out. She seemed to have heard of the Pingtian clan. "Is it the clan that used to be devouring heavens?" Lu Ying asked. "That's right." Hun Gang nodded. During the eras of Yellow Extinction, Qing Extinction, and Song Extinction, the deaths of the three heavens are closely related to the Pingtian clan. However, very few people know of their existence. Moreover, there are very few people in the clan. Counting from their ancestors until now, there might not even be 10 people in the entire clan, said Hun Gang. "Really? There are less than 10 people in a clan?" Jiang Chun was stunned. Afterwards, he realized the crux of the matter and asked, "Senior, you're saying that the deaths of the three heavens are related to the Pingtian clan?" "I don't know the specifics either. I only heard that if the Pingtian clan hadn't secretly interfered, the three heavens wouldn't have been destroyed," Hun Gang said softly. He could not help but look at Jiang Chun with his cloudy eyes. He said, "I think I've seen you somewhere before." Chapter 950. Hun Gang suspected that he had seen Jiang Chun before, but Jiang Chun was not surprised at all. He had reincarnated several times, so it was normal for some old monsters to have seen him. What he was most concerned about now was not whether Hun Gang had seen him before, but the background of the Pingtian clan. A clan with less than 10 people dared to fight against the world's edge. How strong was this clan? He recalled what Zishao had said before. The peak Divine King had been called a child, a junior. Now that he thought about it carefully, he did not say it casually, nor did he look down on the Pingtian clan. Perhaps a peak Divine King could only be considered a junior in the Pingtian clan. Then, how strong were their elders? He did not know anything else, but the unknown creature that had dispersed the light from Zizhao's palm should be able to fight against Zishao. Otherwise, if someone had come to his territory to behave atrociously, how could Zishao not take action? The Pingtian clan is very mysterious. I know very little about them. Hun Gang shook his head. Suddenly, his eyes focused, and he said, "I remember. There was someone in Eternal City who seemed to be from the Pingtian clan. He was called the Evil Dominator." "The Evil Dominator?" Jiang Chun exclaimed softly. "Was it the Evil Dominator, that old monk?" "Before the old monk returned, he was amiable, but after he returned, he changed. His aura was both righteous and evil, and his way of doing things was mysterious and strange. He always gave people a feeling that he could not be trusted. However, one thing was certain. The Evil Dominator had the final say in Eternal City now. I remember now. The Evil Dominator was indeed from the Pingtian clan, but he seemed to have committed some crime and was banished. He was sent to Eternal City to atone for his crime." Hun Gang's memories slowly recovered, and he remembered the Evil Dominator. "The Evil Dominator. He's a fierce person," Jiang Chun said. "The Pingtian clan is full of fierce people," Hun Gang said. However, he was also somewhat puzzled. He muttered, "It's just, I don't know why the Pingtian clan and the World's Edge have never fought, even though they are sworn enemies." Sworn enemies, yet they have never fought? In their long history, they have never fought even once? Jiang Chen asked. That's right. I don't think there has been a battle. Hong Kong nodded. Jiang Chen was stunned. Since they were sworn enemies, how could they not start a war? Ordinary enemies would have already fought to the death. After a long period of time, one of them would definitely be destroyed. However, the Heavenly Edge and Heavenly Clan were indeed somewhat different. Even though they were sworn enemies, they never started a war. In fact, no one knew why these two forces had become sworn enemies. No one in the world knew where their enmity came from. However, this life is a little special. Jiang Chun said solemnly, there's a powerful enemy beyond the heavens, and a creature of the netherworld has come into being. The Heavenly Edge and the Heavenly Clan are making a move at the same time. This era is far too chaotic. It's more than just chaos. Lu Ying's expression was solemn as he said, according to my absolute Shadow Sex intelligence, a huge problem also happened to the Divine Emperor Clan. Otherwise, why would the God Emperor Clan be threatened by the World's Edge? Do you really think that the World's Edge dares to start a war with the God Emperor Clan? Did he really dare to threaten the God Emperor Clan? If not for the God Emperor Clan's own situation, the World's Edge wouldn't dare to do so. Hearing this, Jiang Chen really had a headache. His thoughts were in a mess. He didn't know what was wrong with this world. Why did it suddenly become chaotic? There were powerful enemies outside, and there was war inside. All of this accompanied the arrival of this golden age. Could it be that the golden age this time would be different from the rest? Would it be 100 flowers blooming in the golden age and reaching the peak, or would it be sublimated under the glory of the heavens? But it would be short-lived and withered? All of this was too difficult to understand and guess. It's a long road. Let's wait and see. Jiang Chen sighed. Although the current Jiang Chen had the heart to care about these things, he was powerless to do it. What he could do was to cultivate well and return to the peak as soon as possible. Perhaps when he recovered to the peak, he would have a place in this golden age. You all have your own cultivation methods, right? You don't need me to teach you about cultivation, do you? Jiang Chen asked. I came here because, on the one hand, the Golden Age Academy's cultivation resources are indeed abundant. On the other hand, I'm naturally here for the foundation cultivation methods of the World's Edge, Lu Ying said directly. As for asking you to teach me cultivation, isn't that nonsense? I only need cultivation resources. You don't need to take care of anything else, Hun Gang said. He nodded at Jiang Chen and said very sincerely, thank you for before. What's there to thank? Jiang Chen sighed softly. You fought for the world, and the world has a lot of guesses about you. It's extremely sad. What I did was just to give you justice to the best of my ability. When I recover to the peak, I'll help you if you're in trouble, Hun Gang said. With that, he left and stepped into the cultivation room. Afterward, Lu Ying also left and went to the Central Palace to try to comprehend the foundation cultivation methods of the World's Edge. Jiang Chen didn't delay. He stepped into the cultivation room and began to cultivate. At the same time, on a mountain in the depths of the Tsang state, Zishao stood at the top of the mountain, facing the cliff. His gaze fell on the horizon. Purple light rose in his eyes, and a righteous aura rose and fell behind him. His posture was tall and straight, and his hair was neat. Behind him, the gray-haired old man stood quietly, as if waiting for Zishao to speak. After a long time, Zishao slowly raised his arm, extended a finger, and pointed at the distant horizon. He asked, "What do you see?" The gray-haired old man was stunned when he heard that. He said humbly, "I'm slow-witted." "You're not the only one who's slow-witted. Even I can't see clearly." Zishao sighed. "The sky in front of us has long changed. The road ahead is filled with fog. Everything has become uncertain. The fork in the road of fate has arrived. Sir, can the ninth heaven divine world safely pass this time?" The gray-haired old man asked. "Safely pass?" Zishao whispered. Then he sneered and said, "When has it ever passed safely? When has it not been a mountain of bones and rivers of blood?" And when has it not been a disaster for all living things in this world? There's no such thing as safely passing. There's only fighting. Speaking of this, Zi Zhao's eyes flashed. There was a cold light and a murderous intent in his pupils. He slowly turned around, looked at the gray-haired old man, and asked in a serious voice, "How are those old monsters now? Is there any movement?" "There's no movement for the time being, but judging by the time, they should be out." The gray-haired old man looked serious. He knew who the old monsters Zi Zhao was talking about were. Those few living things were once invincible in the world. They were terrifying, but they couldn't escape the brilliance of time. This time, if they dare to attack again, then, even if I die, I'll fight with them, Zi Zhao said in a deep voice. They were once high and mighty and were praised by the world. Now, they're the darkest. Chapter 951. Only by standing at the highest point could one see the darkness of the world clearly. In this world, there was too much fog and too much darkness. The light was gradually hidden in this flourishing age. The road ahead was long, but there was no trace of hope. Zi Zhao straightened his hair crown. His body was full of noble spirit. When he opened and closed his eyes, it was as if the sun and moon were reversing. He really wanted to see the world clearly, but he helplessly found that the world was too complicated. No one knew better than him what had happened in this world. Just as he said, there was no such thing as safely passing through. All living beings were just fighting to pass through. Do we need to manage the Emperor God clan? The gray-haired old man asked. Those Emperor gods have made great contributions to the Nine Heavens divine realm. If they don't do anything out of line, let them be. Zi Zhao sighed softly. When he said this, only Zi Zhao himself knew how helpless and powerless he was. There were too many things he wanted to do, but how could he do it all by himself? The world did not know who the enemy they were facing was. They only knew that it was the experts of the great wide world and the creatures of the underworld. Little did they know that the real enemy came from the Nine Heavens. I'm going out for a while. I'll leave the world's edge to you during this period of time. After a few breaths, Zi Zhao left behind a sentence and disappeared on the spot. The gray-haired old man's expression froze, and his heart palpitated. It was because Zi Zhao had not left the Tsang prefecture for several generations. Something big must have happened when he left this time. The gray-haired old man raised his head and looked at the sky. The sky was clear and untainted. However, in his eyes, the color of the sky changed. In the vast sky, there was a wisp of gray and black substance floating like a ghost. Upon closer inspection, it was more like an invisible palm, as if it wanted to cover the sky and deceive all living beings in the world. He looked at it for a long time, then shook his head gently and muttered, "Everything will end." Time passed slowly. A month had passed since the establishment of the Flourishing Age Academy. During this month, the Flourishing Age Academy was very peaceful. The 40 disciples were all cultivating. Occasionally, they would go to the central palace to comprehend some divine skills and Taoist skills. As for the foundation cultivation methods of the world's edge in the central palace, no one comprehended them. However, Chenjilu had managed to comprehend the cultivation technique that the Poison God Temple had brought over. The moment Chenjilu comprehended the secret techniques of the Poison God Temple, no one had expected him to announce to the world that he was leaving proud Heaven Gate and joining the Poison God Temple. This caused many people to curse him for being ungrateful and betraying his sect. However, only a few people knew that Chenjilu had no choice but to do so. The Poison God Temple was the inheritance of the Poison God Emperor, and it was impossible for its secret cultivation techniques to be leaked to outsiders. Since Chenjilu had comprehended the Poison God Temple's secret cultivation method, he only had two choices. He could either die or join the Poison God Temple. He believed that many people would choose to live like Chenjilu. Moreover, the Golden Age was about to descend. Everyone could see that chaos was about to come from the Golden Age. Although Ao Lai Heavenly Sect had a deep foundation, it was still lacking compared to the Poison God Temple. It was reasonable for Chunjulu to choose the Poison God Temple. After all, Ao Lai Heavenly Sect had nurtured Chunjulu for so long, yet they had abandoned him. On this day, people from proud descent Heavenly Gate came. They wanted to bring Chunjulu back. However, this was easier said than done. I have never forgotten the sect's nurturing, but I have no other choice. Facing the group of experts from proud descent Heavenly Gate, Chunjulu spoke his mind in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. As for the elder from the Poison God Temple, although he had a foul mouth and a bad attitude, he was very calm and did not get angry. He looked at the group of experts from proud descent Heavenly Gate and slowly explained. He comprehended the Poison God Emperor's secret cultivation method, so he naturally wants to join the Poison God Emperor's sect. This is a good thing for him, for all of you, and for the Poison God Temple, the elder said. If you value talent, don't make things difficult for him. He is a disciple of proud descent Heavenly Gate. Now that he has publicly announced to the world that he has abandoned his sect, what face will we have left? An elder from proud descent Heavenly Gate shouted angrily. Since we're here today, we must demand an explanation. Hearing this, the elder from the Poison God Temple's face turned gloomy. He looked at Chunjulu and said directly, "Cripple your own cultivation, sever your memories, and forget the Poison God Temple's secret cultivation method. Then you can return to proud descent Heavenly Gate." What's the difference between that and death? Chunjulu stood straight. Now that things had come to this, he had to face it. Moreover, he had to face it calmly. "Do you want to die?" the elder from the Poison God Temple asked. "No." Chunjulu shook his head. Chunjulu shook his head and kowtowed to the people from Ao Lai Heavenly Gate. His face was full of sincerity as he said, "Chunjulu thanks Ao Lai Heavenly Gate for grooming me, but my path is my own. Impudent, our proud descent Heavenly Gate nurtured you so that you can betray your sect. Cripple your own cultivation, otherwise you will die." The group from proud descent Heavenly Gate was naturally unwilling to give up. In their eyes, face was more important than anything else. Why are you still kneeling to them? The elder from the Poison God Temple sneered. "They want to kill you now. Without them, I wouldn't be where I am today," Chunjulu said. "After kneeling and kowtowing, I will be free. You want to be free? In your dreams. Things aren't as simple as you think." Chunjulu's expression was calm in the face of the angry shouts from the group from proud descent Heavenly Gate. He slowly stood up and cupped his hands towards the elder. "I have already made my stance clear. All right, leave the rest to me." The elder from the Poison God Temple smiled. He patted Chunjulu's shoulder and said, "You didn't do anything wrong. No one did anything wrong. The mistake lies in the word face." After saying that, the elder from the Poison God Temple took a step forward. Poisonous mist rose from his body, and a swamp appeared under his feet. He waved his hand, and the poisonous mist fell like rain. White skeletal arms stretched out from the swamp. In an instant, the group of people from Ao Lai Heavenly Gate were imprisoned, and the poisonous fog rushed in front of them. Their lives were in the hands of the elder from the Poison God Temple. Since no one did anything wrong, why do you have to fight? Suddenly, the gray-haired elder appeared. With a flick of his finger, the poisonous mist and swamp dispersed. Then he looked at the group from proud descent Heavenly Gate and said with contempt, "Do you still care about face at this point? When the chaotic times begin, what does face mean? At that time, perhaps you will kneel and beg for mercy for a chance to live. Or perhaps proud descent Heavenly Gate will be destroyed in the chaotic times." After saying that, the gray-haired elder sighed heavily and said, "Go back. He is now a disciple of my Glory World Academy and the successor of the Poison God Temple." Chapter 952. In fact, all the major factions had thought of this when they sent their disciples to Flourishing Age Academy. However, none of them had thought about what would happen if their disciples really comprehended the cultivation techniques of other factions. Even Ao Lai Heavenly Sect had not expected this. Senior, he has cultivated our AO, heavenly sex cultivation technique, someone said. We can let him go, but we must destroy AO, heavenly sex cultivation technique and erase his memories. Chinjulu's expression turned ugly when he heard this. One had to know that his current cultivation came from AO, heavenly sex cultivation technique. If the cultivation technique was destroyed, his cultivation would be crippled. As for erasing his memories, it was not just a part of it, but all of it. After erasing his memories would be like a blank sheet of paper. He would even forget himself. Don't you understand what I'm saying? The gray-haired old man said softly. Why do you have to be so ruthless? If he leaks AO, heavenly sex cultivation technique and hands it over to the poison god temple, it won't be good for AO, heavenly sect. That's right. Every faction's cultivation technique can't be leaked. Everyone knows this. Do you think the Poison God Temple will take a fancy to your cultivation technique? The Poison God Temple's elder said coldly, since he has comprehended the Poison God Temple's secret cultivation method, he is our Poison God Temple's successor. Today, no matter what, we won't let you take him away. As for harming him in the slightest, all of you are dreaming. Even if the sect leader of AO, heavenly sect comes, he won't be able to do it today. Clearly, the Poison God Temple's elder was furious. His attitude was unyielding. When the people of AO, heavenly sect heard this, their expressions turned ugly. They fell silent, considering the pros and cons, everyone. Why do you have to be like this? The gray-haired old man sighed. The Flourishing Age Academy has arrived, and everything has become blurry. The road ahead is uncertain. Who can walk to the end and who will be defeated halfway is unknown. Now, don't destroy the peace of the divine world of the nine firmaments over such a trivial matter. However, the people of AO, heavenly sect disagreed. Since the establishment of AO, heavenly sect, such a thing had never happened. Moreover, if the world's edge hadn't appeared, AO, heavenly sect wouldn't have feared the bloodline of the divine emperor. At the end of the day, the world's edge was the one controlling everything. You must give us an explanation, said the leader of the group from AO, heavenly sect. His cultivation base wasn't very high, but his seniority was quite high. He was one of the patriarchs of the proud Heaven Gate. He hadn't spoken since the beginning, and only now did he speak. His words represented the final attitude of the proud heavenly sect. Then scram. At this moment, a cold light flashed in the gray-haired old man's eyes. With a wave of his hand, a cloud appeared. The clouds rolled like waves, sweeping the people from AO, heavenly sect into it. Then, they were swept out of Tsang Prefecture. Since he can't be reasoned with, then let's do it, the gray-haired old man said softly. Sometimes, it's much easier to make a move than to reason. Thank you, Senior, Chinjulu said. Why are you thanking me? You are a disciple of the Flourishing Age Academy. The gray-haired old man smiled and waved his hand to show that he did not care. However, the gray-haired old man also realized the seriousness of the matter. Of the 40 disciples, Chinjulu would not be the only one who would be able to comprehend the secret techniques of the major forces. At that time, if something like this happened again, would they have to deal with it like today? There was no harm in dealing with it once or twice. After all, the world's edge could suppress it. But what if it happened a few times? Tell those disciples that when they want to comprehend the secret techniques of the Flourishing Age Academy, they should first consider whether they can bear the consequences, the gray-haired old man said. We should tell them about this, the Poison God Hall elder said with a nod. Buzz! Boom! At this moment, a rumbling sound came from afar. As far as the eye could see, there was actually a black cloud floating in the sky. Above the black cloud was a dazzling light. Below the black cloud, it was pitch black. The black cloud seemed to have separated the light from the darkness. It's very far away, the Poison God Hall elder said in a low voice. It's at least across several prefectures, but the sound can clearly be heard here. It's targeting the world's edge, the gray-haired old man said in a low voice. At the same time, the instructors and disciples of the Flourishing Age Academy walked out. This was because the sound was getting louder and louder. Moreover, a gloomy and cold aura covered the entire world's edge. This aura, Jiang Qin's expression froze, and he also walked out of the cultivation room. When he saw the black and white blending in the sky, his expression changed greatly. It's here, the intersection of yin and yang. The creatures of the netherworld are here. At this moment, not only the Flourishing Age Academy, but all the prefectures of the 9 heavens saw this scene. Black and white were distinct, and a gap seemed to have appeared between heaven and earth. Yin Qi gushed out like a wave. Yin and yang separated, and a bridge seemed to stretch out from the endless void between the two worlds. The netherworld. The rumors are true. There really is a netherworld. It's not just the netherworld. The creatures of the netherworld are coming. Everyone's heart palpitated, and some people even cried out, thinking that the world of the living would be invaded by the netherworld. A ray of light. It's so dark. Half a day later, many people saw a ray of black light bursting out from the intersection of yin and yang. It was like a black meteor, heading straight for the Tsang prefecture. After a few more breaths, several more rays of black light rushed out from the intersection of yin and yang, and rushed to the prefectures of the 9 heavens. The creatures of the netherworld are here. The golden age has not yet begun, and the chaos has already arrived. The gray-haired old man sighed, and his pupils condensed as he walked to the front of everyone. Then he waved his hand, and a barrier rose, protecting the group of people behind him. Boom! The next moment, a ray of black light fell, and the Yin Qi was violet, as if a piece of land from the netherworld had fallen in the Flourishing Age Academy. A young man, whose appearance was no different from the creatures of the world of the living, had flesh and blood, but the aura emitted from his body was extremely cold. After he came here, he grinned at the gray-haired old man, and after he waved his hand, a gilded decree appeared in front of everyone. I'm here to pay a visit to Tianya under the order of my master, the young man said softly and bowed to the gray-haired old man. Why are you so polite? The gray-haired old man frowned and said, when yin and yang are opposite, even if there is no enmity between them, it is difficult to balance them. Senior, you're right. The young man nodded, and his eyes flickered. He glanced at the group of people behind the gray-haired old man and said, my master also said that after the creatures of the netherworld enter the world of the living, the first battle will be started by me. What? He's here to start a war? To start a war with Tianya? At this moment, the eyelids of the disciples of the Flourishing Age Academy twitched, and they thought to themselves, what does the netherworld want to do? They want to start a war with Tianya as soon as they arrive? Chapter 953. It was obvious that the netherworld knew of Tinya's status in the 9 heavens divine realm. As soon as they came to the world of the living, they went to find Tianya. But what puzzled everyone was the netherworld really that powerful? My master can't enter the world of the living. This young man was very handsome with fair skin, but the yin energy on his body made people feel very uncomfortable. There was no enmity between them, but he gave everyone a feeling of disgust. Perhaps this was what the gray-haired old man said. Yin and yang were opposites. Even if there was no enmity between them, there would eventually be a conflict. The golden age has not truly arrived, and the power of yin and yang has not completely collapsed. Your master can't enter the world of the living for the time being. The gray-haired old man nodded. Amir Jr., do you want to die? At this moment, the elder of the poison god temple shouted angrily. Poison fog lingered on his body, and a large number of runes scattered. Everyone could see that the cultivation of this young man from the netherworld was not high. He was only an upper god. Moreover, from his words, everyone knew that his master did not come. This meant that this young man from the netherworld had no backing. Since that was the case, what was there to be afraid of? However, the gray-haired old man waved his hand and shook his head. In the end, there must be a rule. Otherwise, all living things in this world will be extinct. The creatures of the netherworld are bullying us. Why aren't you making a move? The elder of the poison god temple said with an ugly expression. I killed his disciple, so what? Bullying the weak, once this kind of thing is done, the consequences are very serious. The young man chuckled. Since you can bully the weak, then you can use the power of cultivators to kill mortals. At that time, when the two sides fight, there won't be so many rules. As soon as the young man said this, the elder of the poison god temple's expression turned serious. The poison fog on his body dissipated, and the runes retreated. This was because the young man was right. The creatures in this world were not all cultivators. There were many mortals who had never cultivated, and the number of mortals far exceeded that of cultivators. Under normal circumstances, the battle between cultivators, even if the world was turned upside down, those mortals would not be implicated. This was because mortals were the root. Every cultivator was a mortal before they began to cultivate. If the mortals went extinct, the foundation of the cultivators would also be gone. It's only a matter of time before war breaks out between the mortal realm and the mortal realm. But shouldn't there be some sort of rule? The young man mocked. If you don't follow the rules, then most of the living beings in both worlds will die. All right. Tell me why you're here, the gray-haired old man said. Senior, I came from the great Lu Yun of the Netherworld. My surname is Fong Tai, and my name is Zhang Yuan. Today, I came here under the orders of my master to start the first battle. After saying that, Fong Tai Yuan's gaze swept past Jiang Chun and the others. Then he frowned and muttered, Is the world of the living so weak now? As soon as these words came out, the faces of Jiang Chun and the others turned ugly. What was the meaning of this? Was this a group taunt? What? Are you questioning our strength? Tianzi was the first to stand out, his body emitting a sharp aura. His name was Tianzi, and he claimed to be the son of heaven. He was proud and arrogant. How could he endure such ridicule? Moreover, after Tianzi entered Shengshu Academy, his cultivation had increased greatly. Now he was just one step away from entering the realm of titled God. He was originally proud and arrogant. Coupled with the increase in his strength, this made him even more confident and arrogant. Fong Tai Zhanyuan snorted lightly and retreated to an open space in the distance. Then he waved at Tianzi and said with a look of contempt, Come, this battle will be my first battle for the world of the living. Tianzi was very confident. His hair danced wildly as he rushed out. He was like a golden dragon. With a roar, he pushed his palm forward. Golden divine power was like a tide, instantly drowning Fong Tai Zhanyuan. Boom! Accompanied by a series of explosions, the golden divine power seemed to be burning, turning into a furnace. Kunlun Mountain's Thousand Sun Seal. Looks like Tianzi has obtained the true inheritance of Kunlun Mountain, many people exclaimed. Thousand Sun Seal was a technique that Kunlun Mountain did not pass down. According to legend, when the Thousand Sun Seal was cultivated to the extreme, it could obtain the power of the sun and burn the world. Just this? Suddenly, an extremely contemptuous voice came from the furnace formed by the golden divine power. Bang! Immediately after, the furnace exploded, and Fong Tai Zhenyuan appeared in front of everyone without any injuries. On his body, black fog was rising, and white frost was floating under his feet. In the blink of an eye, strands of cold light shot out like willow branches, shattering the last strand of golden divine power. Then, without waiting for Tianzi to react, a snow-white long blade appeared in front of him out of thin air. The blade fell, and its speed was so fast that Tianzi did not even have time to react before his forehead was slashed. Pooh! After a muffled sound, everyone saw Tianzi retreating. His forehead was slashed open, and his soul and divine soul were exposed. He was almost killed by the blade. Too weak. Compared to my netherworld, the world of the living is really nothing. Fong Tai Zhanyuan mocked, Is there anyone else? When these words came out, Tianzi stood out once again. The injury between his brows had healed, and he said coldly, "Again, you have already lost." Fontaine Yuan said softly, "If I did not show mercy just now, you would be a corpse now. No, there might not even be a corpse left." Hearing this, Tianzi was instantly furious. Golden light bloomed from his body, and he formed seals with both hands, wanting to attack again. But at this moment, the descendant of the clear sky god emperor stopped him. He did not say anything and only shook his head. Tianzi's expression stiffened. He looked at the descendant of the clear sky god emperor in a daze, as if asking, "Am I really not as good as him? Why is this guy even more arrogant than me?" At this moment, Wakako could not stand it anymore. He stepped out and was about to attack, but he was stopped by Jiang Chun, because Jiang Chun saw it very clearly and could also feel Fontaine Yuan's strength. The blade that slashed at Tianzi just now was definitely not Fontaine Yuan's true strength. "Xiao Qingyi, among these people, you are now the weakest, right?" Jiang Chun suddenly said, and looked at Xiao Qingyi with a smile. Xiao Qingyi's old face turned red, and he was quite embarrassed. But he had to admit that the current him was indeed the weakest among Jiang Lu and the others. This was because after he became a god, he did not give up his original profession and had been cultivating the necromancy technique. His cultivation was very slow. Although his realm had increased, it was still difficult for him to use his divine power to control the necromancy technique. "I'm going to practice," Jiang Chun said. "I'm going to hone myself. I'll treat him as a whetstone. What if I am killed?" Xiao Qingyi's face darkened. "Didn't you see that slash just now? It almost took Tianzi's life. Do you think he dares to kill people here? Or do you think the world's edge will let a disciple of the Glory World Academy die in his own academy?" Jiang Chun said softly. He patted Xiao Qingyi's shoulder and said, "Go." Chapter 954. Xiao Qingyi was extremely unwilling. He knew he was no match for Feng Zhantian, yet he insisted on fighting. Wasn't he asking for a beating? However, since his boss had spoken, he couldn't refuse. Moreover, he knew that Jiang Chun was doing this for his own good. Xiao Qingyi had no choice but to walk out. Don't you have anyone else?" Fontaine Yuan frowned and looked at Xiao Qingyi with disdain. "With such cultivation, are you here to die?" "I'm using you as a whetstone," Jiang Chun said directly. "Do you dare to kill anyone here?" "Ah, using me as a whetstone?" Fontaine Yuan chuckled. A cold light flashed in his eyes. "Fine, I'll grind all of you here today. Wait!" At this moment, Xiao Qingyi seemed a little flustered. He said directly, "Can you let me attack first?" When these words came out, the group of people was speechless. Many people looked at Jiang Chun and thought to themselves, like boss, like underling. He's really thick-skinned. "So, what if I let you attack first?" "I'll suppress you with one move," Fontaine Yuan said. "Okay." Xiao Qingyi nodded and formed a seal with his hands. After a few breaths, he pressed his palms on the ground. Boom! With a loud explosion, the ground shook. At the same time, black fog rose from the ground, accompanied by the cries of ghosts. Within the black fog, there were many figures, and there were even tattered war flags that were rising from the ground. Ancient bronze chariots, blood-stained battle flags, and rows of undead soldiers appeared out of thin air. Are these undead? This is a technique used before becoming a god, right? After becoming a god, these techniques are difficult to merge with divine power. They're useless. Fontaine Yuan was also stunned. He didn't expect that the young man in front of him was still using these ancient techniques. "That's it?" Fontaine Yuan pursed his lips and pushed his palm forward. The sharp blade light fell like a snow-white fog. Boom! Boom! A series of explosions immediately rang out. Wherever the saber light passed, the undead collapsed on the spot. Even the war flag and the chariot disappeared. However, after several breaths of time, even more departed spirits appeared. The war banners and war chariots recombined, ghost energy rushing into the heavens. Moreover, these undead were clearly different from before. The undead from before did not have any armor, and the aura it exuded was relatively weak. And now, every single undead was wearing ancient and tattered armor, with broken weapons in their hands. At the same time, the aura they emitted had also reached the level of super profound god. I still can't, Fontaine Yuan said softly and struck out with his palm again. Under the overlapping blade light, these undead were once again cleanly chopped. Puff! At this moment, Xiao Qingyi spat out a mouthful of blood. He seemed to have suffered a backlash from the annihilation of the undead. However, his hands didn't stop. They were still forming seals. At the same time, rumbling sounds came from his body, as if something had been opened. Netherworld Road. The gray-haired old man glanced at Xiao Qingyi, and his eyes flashed. He saw that there was actually a door in Xiao Qingyi's body. That door opened, and behind it was like hell. Wisps of pure and terrifying ghost energy came out from behind the door. Then, as Xiao Qingyi's hand seals formed, this side of the world dimmed. Puff! After several breaths of time, the ground shook, and a golden skeletal palm reached out from under the ground. At the same time, the aura of a lesser supreme god spread out. Before anyone could react, in just 3 breaths of time, hundreds of golden skeletons drilled out from under the ground. They were all wearing golden armor and holding silver long swords. Their cultivations were all lesser supreme gods. This kid walked on a different path. The gray-haired old man nodded to himself. He knew what kind of path Xiao Qingyi walked on. He did not cultivate divine power, but used his own body as a guide to communicate with the netherworld. He also used his own blood energy as a supplement to nurture the departed spirits. As long as he did not die and his blood energy did not dry up, the departed spirits would continue to grow stronger. At this moment, Fontaine Yuan also saw through Xiao Qingyi's intentions and directly attacked. He slashed down, shattering a large number of golden skeletons. Then, he charged in front of Xiao Qingyi and pressed his finger between Xiao Qingyi's eyebrows. "You've lost," Fontaine Yuan said coldly. He did not kill him. Just as Jiangchen said, Fontaine Yuan did not dare to kill anyone here. "I've failed, but you're also afraid." Xiao Qingyi's body was surrounded by ghost energy. He said with a mocking tone, "When I form the 3rd seal, you will face endless ghost generals. So, I won't give you a 3rd chance to form the seal," Fontaine Yuan said in a low voice. If he hadn't reacted quickly, the undead summoned by Xiao Qingyi's 3rd hand seal would probably all be at the level of an upper-level god. At that time, how could he fight against the army of departed spirits alone? "Kid, not bad. You have potential," the gray-haired old man praised. The gray-haired old man exclaimed in admiration, "If you really want to walk this path, I have some ancient books in the world's edge that can help you cultivate." "Thank you, senior," Xiao Qingyi said respectfully. Then, he returned to Jiang Chen's side. "Boss," when he pressed his finger between my eyebrows, "I really pissed my pants." Xiao Qingyi's face was dark. He said with some resentment, "I was almost beaten to death. Aren't you still alive?" Jiang Chen joked. Then, Jiang Chen looked at Jiang Lu and said, "You go and try. Use my full strength?" Jiang Lu said honestly, "I'm afraid I'll cripple him." As soon as he said that, Fontaine Yuan was enraged. "What are you saying? You're afraid you'll cripple me? Stupid fatty. You have to be responsible for your words," Fontaine Yuan said coldly. "I'm telling the truth." Jiang Lu was still as honest as ever. He looked straight at Fontaine Yuan and said, "If I accidentally cripple you, you can't blame me." "What if I accidentally cripple you?" Fontaine Yuan raised his eyebrows and said, "As long as you don't die, it's fine." Jiang Chen grinned and said, "The premise is that you have to have the ability to do so. Is that so?" It seems that the people of the Yang realm are not only weak, but they also have this kind of confidence. Fontaine Yuan narrowed his eyes and stared at Jiang Chen. He said, "After I take care of him, I'll take care of you. Anytime," Jiang Chen said softly. Then, Jiang Lu walked out. His body was surrounded by golden light. His muscles and meridians were floating like a dragon. Behind him, an illusory figure appeared. It was like an ancient deity. The sound of chanting could be heard. Boom! In the next moment, Jiang Lu directly made his move. Without any fancy moves, he rushed towards Fantai Zhanyuan in big strides. "Do you only know how to use brute force?" Fantai Zhanyuan said contemptuously. With a wave of his hand, a snow-white blade appeared. Boom! However, when a loud explosion rang out, he was shocked to see that his attack had been shattered by Jiang Lu's bare hands. Chapter 955. Fantai Zhanyuan came from the netherworld and came to the world's edge to start the first battle between the two worlds. He was confident and arrogant, but he was not conceited. From the start of the battle until now, he had been using the same move. He could win with just a flash of his blade. Did he underestimate the cultivators of the Yang realm? No. It was because he did not dare to underestimate them that he kept using this move. This move was the secret art of his sect, and it was extremely powerful. But now, the flash of his blade was shattered by Jiang Chun with his bare hands. This made him shocked, and his expression became more serious. He also remembered what his master said to him before he came to the Yang realm. Don't underestimate the Yang realm. Interesting, Fantai Zhanyuan said softly. He stretched out his hand, and a 7-feet-long blade appeared. Lightning rolled on the blade, and a Taotia shadow appeared. The roar of a ferocious beast blended with the sound of thunder, and the sound reverberated in all directions. Be careful. That's his doctrine's soul, Jiang Chen warned him. It's a killing blade, Thunder. Who cares about thunder? I'll break it with brute force, Jiang Lu said softly. He rushed out, and his body was full of golden light. His divine power surged, and it was like a wave that slapped out from his body. When he punched out, although it was ordinary, it shattered the void. Tens of thousands of golden lights gathered, and the fist was like the sun. Still barehanded? This time, I'm afraid you won't be able to do it. Fantai Zhanyuan raised his eyebrows, and the thunder in his hand slashed out. Rolling lightning exploded, and the Taotia's shadow rushed out with a roar. Boom! However, after the explosion, Fantai Zhanyuan's eyes widened. It was because Jiang Lu's simple punch seemed to be able to break everything. Under the punch, the Taotia's shadow was like a piece of paper, and it was shattered in an instant. Even the lightning in the sky dissipated. At the same time, Jiang Lu rushed forward, and another punch came down. Buzz! The void shook, and the air was distorted. Under this punch, it was as if everything was going to be suppressed and turned into nothingness. At this moment, Fantai Zhanyuan did not dare to be careless. He retreated, and at the same time, he formed a seal with one hand, and runes fell. Ding-dong. As the runes fell, the sound of bells rang out. Then, flowers bloomed everywhere, as if it was a spring scene. Grass and trees grew. Flowers bloomed all over the place, and the shadows of birds and beasts could be seen. Fantai Zhanyuan's figure disappeared. He seemed to have transformed into a stalk of grass, a flower, or perhaps a beast. This place seemed to have turned into a painting. The mountains and rivers were painted with ink, causing people to be mesmerized. However, at this moment, Jiang Lu's forehead was dripping with cold sweat. He was standing in this picture scroll, yet he couldn't sense Fantai Zhanyuan's aura. Come out! Jiang Lu narrowed his eyes and constantly waved his fists. He wanted to shake off the flowers, plants, birds, and beasts. Umph! You really only know how to use brute force. Fantai Zhanyuan's voice rang out from all directions. It was illusory, making it impossible for others to capture his aura and traces. Alas, he's indeed a little too naive, Jiang Chen said with a bitter smile. Come back, Jiang Lu. Hearing this, Jiang Lu frowned and said doubtfully, Boss, I haven't lost yet. But you can't win, Jiang Chen said. He has transformed into a scene. You can't find him. Even if I don't transform into a scene, I can still win. Fantai Zhanyuan's voice suddenly rang out from behind Jiang Lu. The next moment, without waiting for anyone to react, Lei Ming suddenly appeared. The bright saber light, accompanied by a sharp aura, slashed directly at Jianglu's body. You! Jiang Chen was furious. He had asked Jiang Lu to come back. This meant that he had stopped and admitted defeat. However, he didn't expect that Fantaijian Yuan would dare to attack, and it was a sneak attack. However, just as Jiang Chen was furious, he saw Jiang Lu suddenly turn around and grab Lei Ming. He said coldly, "That's it." As his voice fell, everyone saw that there was no wound on Jiang Lu's back. Even his clothes were not torn. Fantaijian Yuan was dumbfounded. He had gathered all his strength and even used his Tao spirit. Even if Jiang Lu didn't die, he should be seriously injured. But what was the situation now? He was in skate? Everyone says that I'm simple-minded. Actually, sometimes I'm smart, Jiang Lu said seriously. Since I can't find you, I'll use myself as bait and wait for you to take the bait. You! Fantaijian Yuan's expression was grave. The divine power in his body went berserk. Above Lei Ming, lightning shot out like a sharp saber. However, Jiang Lu's body was too strong. He allowed the sharp saber to pierce his body without moving an inch. Not even his skin was damaged. Then, under Fantaijian Yuan's horrified gaze, Jiang Lu suddenly exerted force and pulled Fantaijian Yuan in front of him. The fist landed like a golden millstone, bombarding Fantaijian Yuan's face. Puff! Along with a muffled sound, Fantaijian Yuan fell to the ground with blood flowing out of his 7 orifices. His divine soul and spirit were also trembling. He was confused and absent-minded. He was completely stunned by this punch. If boss didn't ask me to be gentle, this punch wouldn't have hit your face but your skull, Jiang Lu said coldly. After saying that, he turned around and grinned at Jiang Chen. Boss, am I smart? Quite smart. Jiang Chen had a strange expression on his face. He thought to himself, is this silly guy enlightened? As soon as he said that, Jiang Chen's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly shouted, "Dodge!" However, Jiang Chen's words were still too slow. At this moment, Fantaijian Yuan, who had been beaten absent-mindedly, suddenly stood up. He gathered all the divine power in his body. A shocking saber radiance burst out and directly pierced Jiang Lu's chest. Puff! Jiang Lu spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, his expression became ferocious. He suddenly turned around and grabbed Fantaijian Yuan's head. His eyes were red as he said coldly, "Do you want to die?" You! Fantaijian Yuan was dumbfounded. This time it was an all-out attack. However, Jiang Lu's physical body was only damaged. It could only be considered a flesh wound. He could not imagine how a cultivator could cultivate their fleshly body to such an extent. Could it be that his physical body wasn't sanctified? Did you want to kill me just now? At this moment, Jiang Lu stared at Fantaijian Yuan. Golden light burst out from his body like a golden pillar of light, shooting straight into the sky. Without waiting for Fantaijian Yuan to speak, Jiang Lu revealed his killing intent. In his palm, violent divine power gathered. Upon seeing this, Jiang Chen didn't say anything to stop him. After all, if it was an ordinary person, Fantaijian Yuan's attack just now was enough to kill. Since the other party had the intention to kill, it was no wonder that Jiang Lu had the intention to kill. Let him go. However, the gray-haired old man spoke. With a point of his finger, he captured Jiang Lu. He looked at Fantaijian Yuan and said, "Don't underestimate the world of the living. Why should I let him go?" Jiang Lu was furious. He stared at the gray-haired old man and asked, "He wanted to kill me just now. Didn't you see it? He came from the netherworld. You can't kill him." The gray-haired old man said, "At least, you can't kill him now." Chapter 956. Why can't we kill him just because he's from the netherworld? If I had been killed just now, what would have happened? Jiang Lu's character was very straightforward. He had doubts in his heart, so he asked on the spot. Jiang Chen also frowned and looked at the gray-haired old man in confusion, as if he wanted an explanation. He himself said that he will start the first battle after coming to the netherworld. The The gray-haired old man said softly then. I'm afraid his identity is not ordinary. So what? Do you think our status is ordinary? The elder of the Poison God Temple said. Although he had a grudge with Jiang Chun, he still stood on Jiang Chen's side. He chose to support Jiang Lu, the top force of the netherworld, Dalian. The gray-haired old man said, the master of Dalian might be stronger than Lord Zishao. What? It can't be right? At this moment, everyone was moved, and they were incomparably shocked. Zishao was the master of the world, and his cultivation was unfathomable. Even the God Emperor was threatened by him. It was hard to imagine what realm Zishao's cultivation had reached. He might have surpassed the God Emperor. At this moment, when they learned that the master of Dalian's cultivation was stronger than Zishao, Jiang Chun and the rest felt their hearts skip a beat. Then what kind of realm is it? Chunjilu asked with a blank face. They had never heard of such a realm. It's good that you know. At this moment, Fan Taizhiyuan stood up and wiped the blood from his 7 orifices. He said in a low voice, Today, I admit defeat. What do you mean by admit defeat? Jiang Lu was very unhappy. He pointed at Fan Taizhiyuan and said, If you are not convinced, let's fight again. I lost this battle, but I'm afraid I will lose in the other battles too. The netherworld is destined to be inferior to the netherworld. Fan Taizhiyuan did not agree with Jiang Lu, but the arrogance in his words was still there. At the same time, he also told everyone that he was not the only one who entered the netherworld this time. Moreover, those people were now in the top sects and fighting with the geniuses of the netherworld. Perhaps on this day, you will know how strong the creatures of the netherworld are. Fan Taizhiyuan raised his eyebrows and immediately cupped his hands towards the gray-haired old man. However, there was no trace of respect as he coldly said, We will come again. You're welcome at any time, the gray-haired old man said softly. After that, Fan Taizhiyuan left. The gates to the netherworld haven't been fully opened yet. The living beings that have entered the mortal realm this time aren't very powerful. The gray-haired old man muttered to himself. Are they here to scout out the situation in the mortal realm? Or are they taking this opportunity to use the prodigies of the mortal realm as whetstones? It doesn't matter how many of them there are. Raise your hand and suppress it. Wakako felt very uncomfortable. He wanted to fight from the start, but he was stopped by Jiang Chun. Now, the battle intent in his body had exploded, and he could not suppress it at all. There will be plenty of chances. They will come again. The gray-haired old man smiled. When the time comes, I'll let you go. Huh? Suddenly, the Poison God Temple elder's expression changed. He had received a message from the Poison God Temple. The new holy son of the Poison God Temple lost? At this moment, the elder of the Poison God Temple cried out in alarm, his expression incomparably gloomy. What happened? The descendant of the clear sky God Emperor asked. A living being from the netherworld went to the Poison God Temple and fought with the holy son of the Poison God Temple. Our holy son lost. The elder of the Poison God Temple had an ugly expression on his face. The newly appointed holy son had been defeated before he had even made a name for himself. To the Poison God Temple, this could be said to be a kind of humiliation. The current holy son of the Poison God Temple is really weak. Yu Guang mocked. Not only was your holy son defeated, he was also killed by Jiang Chun. You, speak less. The elder of the Poison God Temple angrily rebuked. Having his wound exposed like this, he almost went berserk. However, just as Yu Guang finished speaking, his expression also turned ugly. A look at your expression. The descendant of the clear sky God Emperor stared at Yu Guang and asked, It can't be. Damn it. The holy son of the Moon Clan was also defeated. Those damned netherworld bastards actually crippled the cultivation of the holy son of the Moon Clan. Yu Guang's killing intent exploded. He couldn't wait to kill that living being from the netherworld right now. You still have the face to talk about the Poison God Temple. Your holy son of the Moon Clan is really something. The elder of the Poison God Temple mocked. Let's appoint a new holy son. Fortunately, The Clear Sky God Emperor's clan is fine. The descendant of the Clear Sky God Emperor said softly. However, before he could finish speaking, he also received a message. At this moment, his killing intent exploded. He directly turned into a ray of light and disappeared from the place. This stunned everyone. He was still quite calm before. Why did he suddenly leave? I reckon that something big happened in the Clear Sky God Emperor's clan. The loss might be even more serious than the Poison God temples. The elder of the Poison God temple muttered. Living beings from the netherworld. Are they going to challenge all the geniuses of the Yang realm? In any case, our Flourishing Age Academy is not afraid. We will suppress as many as they come. However, even so, no one dared to underestimate the living beings of the netherworld. One had to know that the Son of Heaven had been defeated by Fangtai Zhanyun. In the entire Glory World Academy, how many disciples were stronger than the Son of Heaven? Some people even thought that if it weren't for Jiang Lu and the others today, the Glory World Academy would also be defeated. Go back and cultivate. The next few days will be lively. The gray-haired old man sighed. This is just the prelude. The real battle has yet to come. Senior, those supreme experts of the netherworld have yet to descend. Are we really not going to kill those juniors of the netherworld? The elder of the Poison God Temple asked. There are juniors and mortals in the netherworld, and so do we in the Yang realm. The gray-haired old man said, if we kill their descendants, they will do the same when they descend. At that time, all the juniors will die, and all the mortals will be destroyed. Our foundation will be broken. Hearing this, everyone nodded inwardly. They also understood this logic. However, were they going to let those living beings from the netherworld run rampant in the Yang realm? Disperse, disperse. Go back and cultivate. Jiang Chen waved his hand and turned to leave. However, when he turned around, he saw Wakako standing still with a dark face. What are you doing? Jiang Chen asked. Those self-righteous geniuses from the netherworld will definitely come again. I'm waiting for them here. Wakako said. This time I'm going to make the first move. Don't stop me. Are all overlord bodies like this? Jiang Chun smiled bitterly. Okay. You wait here. Actually, I feel that Fangtai Zhanyuan shouldn't be my opponent. Dongfang Wushuang, who was also an overlord body, also stayed behind. The two of them were burning with fighting spirit. They stood in front of the central hall like two door gods, waiting for the arrival of the living beings of the netherworld. Seeing this, everyone was speechless. What do you two mean? Are you afraid that others will snatch your prey? Chapter 957. The beings of the netherworld attacked and defeated the saints of the various top factions. For a time, the entire Yang realm was shaken. However, no one would have thought that there were two door gods waiting for the beings of the netherworld in the Flourishing Age Academy. The Glittering Age Academy also won. A day later, the descendant of the heavenly god Emperor returned with a piece of news. Among the top factions in the Yang realm, other than the Flourishing Age Academy, the Glittering Age Academy established by the Pingtian clan also won. The Glittering Age Academy was different from the Flourishing Age Academy. The Glittering Age Academy recruited disciples. As long as you had some talent, they would accept all of you. It could be said that they did not reject anyone. With the victory of the Glittering Age Academy, their reputation soared. Many people joined the Glittering Age Academy. For a time, the Glittering Age Academy became the academy with the most people in the Yang realm. There were even people who said that the Glittering Age Academy was above the Flourishing Age Academy. Regarding this, the Flourishing Age Academy did not say anything, as if they did not want to compete with the Glittering Age Academy. As for the disciples of the Flourishing Age Academy, they were also very calm. They each cared about their own cultivation and ignored the outside world. 3 days later, an important piece of news spread throughout the Yang realm. At the border between the Yang realm and the Yang realm, a top expert descended from the netherworld. His aura was extremely strong, like an emperor. After he descended to the Yang realm, he went straight to Yongzhou. With his strongest attitude and strength, he swept through Yongzhou and declared himself king. On this day, the beings who had entered the Yang realm previously all entered Yongzhou. That place became their stronghold in the Yang realm. There are so many top factions in the Yang realm. Are they just going to ignore it? The ancient divine kings, the divine emperor's clan, the glittering age academy, and the flourishing age academy, are they just going to watch the Yang realm occupy Yongzhou? Everyone was puzzled. They did not see the top experts of the Yang realm make a move. This made many people speculate. Could it be that the Yang realm had really declined, and no one could stop the supreme experts of the Yang realm? Yin and Yang are one. Although they are opposites, they can also merge. More than 10 days later, the emperor of the Yang realm said that he wanted to take in disciples of the Yang realm as disciples. He even told everyone that the Yang realm would not target the living beings of the Yang realm. If they wanted to, they could join the Yang realm. This made many people's Yang realm experts, the emperor of the Yang realm of the Yang realm. This action of not spilling blood was too sinister. They thought that the living beings of the Yang realm would understand this principle, but to their surprise, on the same day, many living beings of the Yang realm sought refuge and became disciples of the Netherworld. There were even a few top forces that decided to join the alliance and settle down in Yongzhou. These people have betrayed the mortal realm, become a lackey of the underworld. They will regret it sooner or later. However, as time passed, more and more living beings from the mortal realm joined the underworld. There were even rumors that several ancient deity kings had also joined the king of the underworld. This caused many people's hearts to turn cold. Was the underworld really that strong? Even the ancient gods had given up on the mortal realm. Could it be that the netherworld was truly unstoppable? But there were also people who understood the reason. The emperor of the netherworld had arrived, but the top powerhouses of the mortal realm hadn't made a move yet. Wasn't this the same as boosting the might and prestige of the netherworld? Over time, many people began to believe that the mortal realm was indeed inferior to the netherworld. It was only normal for them to betray the mortal realm in order to protect themselves and survive. Enter the netherworld and obtain the great Tao. The foundation of the netherworld is far deeper than that of the mortal realm. Half a month later, the emperor of the netherworld spoke again. In order to prove that the Tao of the netherworld was stronger than that of the mortal realm, he sent out a group of prodigies of the netherworld to challenge the saints of the top sections. In just 3 days, almost all the top forces of the mortal realm were swept away. Compared to the geniuses of the mortal realm, the geniuses of the netherworld are simply too strong. Many prodigies who have been famous in the mortal realm for a long time can't even last 100 rounds against them. Some were even killed in an instant. Too strong. Is this the difference between the netherworld and the mortal realm? As the victories of the netherworld increased, the morale of the mortal realm fell to the bottom. However, there were 2 exceptions. Linlang Academy had never been defeated, and neither had Shengshi Academy. At the same time, Martial God's Martial Pavilion had never been defeated either. It was acceptable that Linlang Academy had never been defeated. After all, it was established by the Pingtian clan and had a deep foundation. Everyone could understand that Shengshi Academy had never been defeated. It was established in the world. However, Martial God's Martial Pavilion had never been defeated, which made many people puzzled. Is Martial Pavilion really that strong? I really didn't expect Martial Pavilion to have such a deep foundation. Their disciples are so powerful. Just as everyone was discussing Martial Pavilion, a piece of news came from Shengshi Academy. When Dongfang Wushuang was fighting with a prodigy of the netherworld, he accidentally killed his opponent. What? Someone died? Something big happened. One had to know that after the creatures of the netherworld entered the mortal realm, although they had been challenging the prodigies of the major forces, there had never been a death. This time, Shengshi Academy was broken. Everyone was watching, not knowing if the emperor of the netherworld in Yongzhou would make trouble. However, what surprised people was that the Emperor of the Netherworld in Yongzhou did not react at all. However, for more than 10 days, Yongzhou kept sending prodigies to Shengshi Academy, as if they wanted to regain their face. Unfortunately, with Wakako and Dongfang Wushuang, the two door gods, the prodigies of the Netherworld could not win. Two great overlord bodies. They can be said to be unparalleled. The two door gods of Shengshi Academy. Many people exclaimed, and their hearts burned with a raging fire. They seemed to see the hope of the younger generation of the mortal realm in Wakako and Dongfang Wushuang. Are those two brats really that strong? Shengshi Academy, let's go and meet them. Just as everyone thought that Yongzhou would continue to send people over, unexpectedly, the next group of people who went to challenge Shengshi Academy was actually from Linlang Academy. At this time, there's still a civil war? What is Linlang Academy thinking? Instead of dealing with the creatures of the Netherworld, they're actually attacking Shengshi Academy? The creatures of the mortal realm were angry, but they also knew what Linlang Academy meant. The two academies were established one after the other, so they had to compete. Moreover, the Tianya clan and Hutian clan were mortal enemies. When the two appeared, there would definitely be a conflict. I heard that Shengshi Academy has two door gods. Today, Linlang Academy will come and meet them. Let me see how powerful the so-called overlord body is. Is it as powerful as the rumors say, or the rumors are a bit exaggerated? On this day, the people of Linlang Academy came. There were a total of 2 people who came. They were both high-level gods, and their realms were not much different from Wakako and Dongfang Wushuang. As soon as the 2 of them came here, they first talked nonsense, and then there was no then. It was because Wakako and Dongfang Wushuang were too lazy to talk nonsense. They directly attacked and crippled the 2 of them, then threw them out of Shengshi Academy. Chapter 958. The 2 overlord bodies were like the door gods of Flourishing Age Academy. They dared to fight any cultivator of the same realm who dared to come. Glittering Age Academy was furious. That day, they sent 2 top disciples to Flourishing Age Academy, and this battle was very intense. In the end, Wakako and Dongfang Wushuang won by a narrow margin. Then, the 2 door gods couldn't take it anymore. Their injuries were too serious, so they went into seclusion to heal. Flourishing Age Academy won again. Without the 2 overlord bodies, Flourishing Age Academy is just like that. Many people sighed. They thought that among the disciples of Flourishing Age Academy, only Wakako and Dongfang Wushuang were powerful. And now, without these 2 people, Flourishing Age Academy seemed to have lost its face and was about to fall. Flourishing Age Academy? 3 days later, in front of Flourishing Age Academy's central main hall, Fantai Zhanyuan came again. This time, he brought a young man. Both of them had reached the upper-level god realm, and their aura was very powerful. Fantai Zhanyuan's aura was even more terrifying. He had vaguely reached the level of a titled god. When he opened his eyes, wisps of Yin-Chi floated like cold stars. "Are you looking for a beating?" Zhanglu walked out immediately. When he saw Fantai Zhanyuan, a trace of contempt flashed through his eyes. Zhanglu was very simple and honest, so he wouldn't hide his thoughts. Looking down on you is looking down on you. Hearing that, Fantai Zhanyuan laughed mockingly and said, "I haven't seen you for a while, but you're still the same. You're about the same." Zhanglu raised his eyebrows and said, "What? You still want to fight today? If you're not here to fight, could it be that you're here to reminisce?" After saying that, Fantai Zhanyuan took a step forward. His eyes flickered with confidence as he said, "Today, I'll suppress you. So much nonsense. Fight." Zhang Lu rushed out. Golden light rose from his body, as if he was a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus. When he stepped out, the earth shook, and a shadow appeared behind him. His left hand formed a fist print, and his right hand formed a palm print. When the fist and palm met, it was like 2 golden mountains pressing toward Fantai Zhanyuan. "You still only know brute force," Fantai Zhanyuan said disdainfully. Then he summoned his Tao soul, Lei Ming, and slashed down. It was as if the Milky Way was flowing backwards. It slashed towards Jiang Lu's head. In the next moment, there was a loud explosion as Jiang Lu pushed his palm forward. Golden light flashed as if it was an indestructible golden body. With a single palm strike, the sound of thunder was dispersed. Then a punch was thrown out. Like a falling meteor, it smashed into Fantai Jinyuan's body. Puff! Fresh blood sprayed out from Fantai Jinyuan's mouth. His chest caved in, and his face was pale. Even his divine soul was nearly destroyed. "I'm still the same," Jianglu said softly. "And you're still the same? You're still so weak that you can't even take a punch from me." "You!" Fantai Jinyuan was furious, but he was defeated again. It seems that in addition to the two overlord bodies, Flourishing Age Academy also has an eternal sacred body. At this moment, the young man who came with Fantai Jinyuan chuckled. He did not care about Fantai Jinyuan's injuries at all. He smiled at Jiang Lu, his smile full of contempt. Boom! In the next moment, the young man suddenly took a step forward. His speed was like a bolt of lightning as he flashed past. When he reappeared, he had already fallen behind Jiang Lu. At the same time, his palm was stained with golden blood. Puff! Jiang Lu was stunned, and blood sprayed out from his mouth. He lowered his head in a daze and looked at the wound that pierced through his chest. His eyes were full of disbelief. His unparalleled physical body was broken, and he did not even have time to react. Jiang Lu could not see how the young man attacked. He only felt a ray of light pass by him. Flourishing Age Academy has lost after all. The young man waved the golden blood in his hand and smiled at Jiang Lu. He said, "You can't do it." "You!" Jiang Lu was furious. However, as he spoke, he sprayed out a few more mouthfuls of blood, along with his internal organs. He was seriously injured. What's there to be proud of when a titled deity defeated a superior deity? At this moment, a lazy voice was heard. There was a trace of anger in the voice. Hearing this, the young man turned around and saw a lower true deity appear in front of the central palace. Lower true deity? The young man was stunned. How could there be someone with such a low cultivation in Flourishing Age Academy? "I'm a teacher of Flourishing Age Academy," Jiangchen said softly and pointed at Jiang Lu. "And he is my little brother." "Oh, a lower true deity is the big brother, and a superior deity is the little brother? How interesting." The young man joked. "What? Your little brother was beaten up. As the big brother, are you going to intervene?" Hearing this, Jiangchen stepped forward and nodded naturally. He said, "My little brother was beaten up. As the big brother, of course I have to intervene. Otherwise, why would others call me big brother?" "You?" The young man suddenly laughed and looked at Jiangchen with disdain. He said, "You are really a teacher of Flourishing Age Academy?" "Of course." Jiangchen nodded. "Your cultivation." The young man frowned and said, "I don't want to fight with you." "Oh, is that so?" Jiangchen said softly. Suddenly, a dragon shadow appeared behind him, and a tiger shadow appeared in front of him. Roses began to revolve around her, as if thousands of flowers were blooming in the spring. In the next moment, Jiangchen rushed out. The dragon and tiger shadows burst forth, like two sharp edges, directly bombarding the young man's body. Without waiting for the young man to react, Jiangchen punched out. The tiger's roar shook the sky and directly suppressed the young man on the ground. I remember that both sides tacitly agreed that only cultivators of the same realm can fight, right? Today, you injured my Flourishing Age Academy's superior deity disciple with your titled deity cultivation. This you have to give an explanation, right? Jiangchen said in a low voice. He walked up to the youngster and pressed his hand on his head. His eyes flickered coldly. He said, "Give me an explanation. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave." "You dare to kill me?" The young man raised his eyebrows. Although he was shocked by Jiangchen's strength, he was not afraid. An emperor from the underworld had descended on Yongzhou, and no one from the Yang realm dared to go. This made the creatures of the underworld even more arrogant and confident. They believed that the strongest of the Yang realm would not dare to make a move. It was precisely because of this that the creatures of the underworld had become more and more arrogant and despotic during this period of time. To be honest, I really don't want to kill you unless it's a last resort, Jiang Chen said truthfully. After all, you have an emperor in the underworld. It's good that you know, the young man said coldly. If the emperor of the underworld makes a move, it's enough to wipe out the entire Yang realm. Kill him. At this moment, the gray-haired old man suddenly appeared. He nodded at Jiang Chen and said, "It's about time. We don't have to back down anymore." "Senior, what do you mean?" Jiang Chen stared at the gray-haired old man and thought to himself that something big was going to happen. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.